Chapter 2059. After leaving that place, Zhao Fu continued to gather information about the time god, but he did not find anything. In the end, Zhao Fu could only continue to gather information while waiting at the center of the godly world. There were still 10 or so days until the god competition and the various godly spirits would gather. When that time came, there would most likely be information about the time god. A few days later, Zhao Fu still did not find anything about the time god, but he had obtained some useful information. Zhao Fu found out that there was a place where a group of sun gods had gathered. Back at the Pantheon Palace, Zhao Fu had absorbed sun god power and found that it could cause the sun-moon devil seal to react, greatly increasing Zhao Fu's yin and yang attributes. By now, Zhao Fu's blood contained water spirit power, his body contained wood spirit power, and his bones contained metal spirit power. He now lacked earth spirit power and fire spirit power, as well as yin and yang attributes. Only by grasping these 7 attributes would he be able to awaken the spirit race's Emperor Star. Of course, this was only the basic requirement. Awakening the spirit race's Emperor Star would be quite difficult. As such, Zhao Fu needed sun god power to strengthen the yin-yang devil seal. Without their power, Zhao Fu would not be able to awaken the spirit race's Emperor Star. Zhao Fu's plan was to awaken the Emperor Stars of the 8 great races. There were 10 or so of these sun gods, and if he could absorb their power, he would be able to satisfy the requirements. When that time came, he would only be left with yin, fire, and earth attributes. However, these sun gods were too powerful. It was not an easy task to obtain their divine power. Most importantly, this place was filled with higher being experts, and no faction dared to do anything. If they caused any disturbances, they would definitely be caught by the higher beings. Zhao Fu sat in his room and thought about how he could easily obtain sun god power. Beside him, the wine god gave a trace of a smile and asked caringly, "Sir, what are you thinking about? What are you thinking about? Now that I'm considered one of your people, why don't you tell me if I can help you?" Zhao Fu stopped thinking and turned to look at the god of wine. Now, Zhao Fu had some information about the wine goddess. Her name was Jiu Yun, and she came from the most famous wine god faction in the god world. If she hadn't come from his faction, she wouldn't have so many high-grade winemaking recipes. Moreover, with her power, she was still relatively strong compared to ordinary gods. As for whether or not he should take in the god of wine, Zhao Fu was somewhat conflicted. For the sake of safety, Zhao Fu hadn't brought anyone to the center of the divine realm. Logically speaking, he shouldn't have accepted the god of wine's submission and should have allowed her to leave. On one hand, she was actually of some use to Zhao Fu. She could brew all kinds of high-quality wine. Zhao Fu thought about it carefully and decided to make things clear. "You should know that experts from all sides are looking for me. If you continue to stay by my side, it will be very dangerous. Facing such powerful people, I can't guarantee your safety. At a time like this, you should stay away from me. If you really want to submit to me, you can wait for me somewhere. Once I'm done, I'll go find you," the god of wine said as she smiled. "This time, I'm also here to participate in the gods' competition. As long as I enter the secret realm, I won't have to worry about anything." Zhao Fu wasn't surprised. Those who had come to the center of the god world were basically here to participate in the gods' competition. Now that the god of wine wasn't willing to go back, Zhao Fu wouldn't force her. Finally, Zhao Fu told her about the sun god. The god of wine was somewhat surprised. At first, she had thought that Zhao Fu was still thinking about how to capture the time god. She had wanted to have Zhao Fu brew some sacred blood wine to see if he could draw out the time god. However, she had never expected that Zhao Fu would once again be thinking about the sun god. As for the sun god, the god of wine, or Jiu Yun, asked, "Sir, do you only need sun god power and nothing else?" Seeing that she had a solution, Zhao Fu smiled and nodded. Jiu Yun smiled and said, "I know of a sun pond that gives off a very powerful sun god spirit. Sir, you can go there to obtain sun god power. That place is a bit far from here, and many sun gods go there. Because of the special nature of that place, if you don't cause too much of a commotion, no one will be able to sense it. Zhao Fu said in pleasant surprise, "Where is the sun pond? Take me there to see it now." Jiu Yin smiled and nodded. Following this, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yin didn't waste any time and quickly arrived at that place. The sun pond was a massive crater. Zhao Fu didn't know how big it was, but he couldn't see the end of it. Moreover, it was dozens of meters deep, and the ground was scorched black and full of potholes. There were even more rocks scattered about, including boulders that were bigger than houses and ordinary small rocks. This was only the periphery of the sun pond. It emitted powerful sun power, and the crater also emitted intense sunlight. Zhao Fu had heard from Jiu Yun that this sun lake was formed after the death of an extremely powerful sun god. This sun god was an ancient godly spirit, and even though it could not compare to those gods, it was still a very powerful godly spirit. The ancient god's main body was not in human form, but a three-legged golden crow, because there was a very powerful sun power gathered here, and it was of a very high level. Many people would choose to cultivate here and even become sun gods. At that moment, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun stood at the periphery and felt a high temperature. It was impossible for ordinary people to approach the sun pond. This scorching power could roast people into dried corpses. After releasing an energy barrier to block the high temperature, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun continued forward. After a while, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun met some people. They were both men and women. They sat cross-legged on the ground and closed their eyes to absorb the surrounding sun power. There were thousands of them. These people seemed to be cultivating, but they had actually begun to pay attention to Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun. They could not cultivate wholeheartedly in this place because a sneak attack could take their lives. Zhao Fu looked around and did not pay too much attention to these people. After all, they were all ordinary cultivators who were cultivating here. Then, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun continued forward. The cultivators sitting cross-legged on the ground saw that Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun did not do anything and continued to walk forward. They did not pay much attention to them and continued to cultivate. After walking for a while, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun met some people who were sitting cross-legged on the ground and cultivating. The sun power emitted by these people was much stronger than those outside. They also noticed Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun and secretly made preparations to prevent Zhao Fu from suddenly hurting them. Zhao Fu naturally did not care about these people. He continued forward with Jiu Yun and finally arrived at the sun pond. Chapter 2060. The sun pool was very big, and it was filled with golden water. The surface of the pool was very calm and did not have any ripples at all. It was like a golden water mirror that gave off countless rays of golden light. It was quite dazzling and gave off a searing heat. The temperature of the water in the sun pool was even hotter than ordinary magma. If an ordinary person fell in, they would definitely be cooked. There were already hundreds of people outside the sun pool. They floated on the surface of the water and sat cross-legged, absorbing the powerful sun god's spirit. The sun god power here was dozens of times stronger than outside, and it was even hotter. It was as if steel was about to melt, and the closer one got to the sun pool, the hotter it became. If one cultivated here, others would not be able to withstand it at all. Those hundreds of people were actually able to enter the sun pool. It could be seen that these people were not simple. Some of them were even close to becoming sun gods. Zhao Fu glanced at them and did not mind, much as he continued to walk forward. He gathered his power on the defensive barrier, and Zhao Fu stepped into the sun pool. He did not fall into the water, but he stood on the ground, mainly for the purpose of the defensive barrier. Jiu Yun followed Zhao Fu in. The hundreds of other people felt quite surprised. They could not sense the aura of sun power from Zhao Fu and Zhao Fu's bodies. They were most likely not here to cultivate. So what was their goal? Everyone became careful and opened their eyes to look at Zhao Fu and Zhao Fu, wanting to know why Zhao Fu and Zhao Fu had come here. Zhao Fu and Zhao Fu ignored their gazes and continued to walk forward. As they walked towards the center of the pool, the temperature became hotter and hotter. Even Zhao Fu's defensive barrier seemed to be about to melt. Zhao Fu had to increase the power of the defensive barrier and stop it from melting. After a while, Zhao Fu and Zhao Fu met a few people. These people gave off light and gave off powerful godly auras. They were all sun gods, and there were 4 men and 2 women. Sensing Zhao Fu's arrival, the sun gods slowly opened their eyes. The temperature here was already extremely high, and those who could come here were undoubtedly very powerful people. At the same time, they were curious as to why Zhao Fu had come here. However, although they opened their eyes, they had no intention of talking to Zhao Fu, because Zhao Fu had not done anything harmful to them, and they did not want to care about Zhao Fu. This place was closer to the center of the sun pond, but it was not the center of the sun pond yet. The temperature in the center of the sun pond was the highest. Standing there and looking ahead, countless dazzling rays of light were emitted. It was as though there was a huge sun in the water. Due to the high temperature, the space there was constantly distorting. Zhao Fu felt the temperature there, and his expression became serious. Now, these sun gods only dared to cultivate outside the center and did not dare to enter the center because the temperature in the center was too high and they could not withstand it. Leave this place first and wait outside. Now that Zhao Fu had seen how powerful the center of the solar pond was, he wasn't overly arrogant. Zhao Fu couldn't take care of Jiu Yun anymore, so he asked her to leave first. Jiu Yun nodded gently. She stood there and looked at the sun and the water in front of her. She felt how terrifying it was. That was the place where the ancient sun god had died. She felt a sense of fear and felt that she could not resist it at all. The few sun gods watched Jiu Yun leave without saying anything. Zhao Fu continued walking towards the center of the solar pond. Seeing Zhao Fu's actions, everyone was shocked. They thought to themselves, this person actually wants to go to the center of the solar pond. Doesn't he feel the horror there? If they, the sun gods, enter there, they will die. At that moment, Zhao Fu had already walked to the edge of the sun and the water. He only needed one step to step into the center of the pool. Standing there, waves of scorching power kept surging towards Zhao Fu. The defensive barrier started to melt again. What Zhao Fu did next shocked everyone. He removed the defensive barrier and allowed the terrifying temperature to attack him. Everyone was shocked. They felt that Zhao Fu would be burned to a crisp in the next moment. As sun gods, they knew the power there. However, Zhao Fu didn't turn into a charred corpse like everyone else had thought. The terrifying temperature seemed to be burning Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu started to absorb this powerful sun power. Now, Zhao Fu wanted to absorb the sun god power, not resist it, so the defensive barrier had to be removed. Because of the divine blood, this high temperature was bearable. Zhao Fu's expression didn't change much. After spending some time getting used to the sun god power, Zhao Fu raised his foot and stepped into the center of the pool. Boom! A massive wave of heat, giving off an aura that seemed to be able to incinerate everything, rushed toward Zhao Fu. Even though it was just one step, the difference between the temperature here and outside was dozens of times greater. Before the heat wave had even arrived, Zhao Fu felt his body heat up and sweat continuously appeared. If that heat wave really hit Zhao Fu's body would be injured. Boom! Zhao Fu's body exploded out with a powerful aura and a massive black light spread out, forming a black vortex in front of Zhao Fu. Countless traces of heat wave were sucked into the black vortex, and Zhao Fu's body felt a massive wave of sun god power pour into his body, causing his body to be filled with sun god power. Zhao Fu's body also gave off light. The sun gods looked shocked and stood up from the water surface, looking at Zhao Fu. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would be able to resist that terrifying heat wave. That massive wave of heat wave was absorbed into Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu quickly refined that powerful sun god power. Sun god power continuously gathered in the surroundings and flowed into the black vortex, entering Zhao Fu's body. After absorbing that massive wave of heat wave, Zhao Fu's body could withstand the surrounding temperature. Zhao Fu dispersed the black vortex and continued onwards. The sun god's expressions became serious. Even though they did not know why Zhao Fu had entered the center of the pool, they faintly felt that it was not a small matter. Something big might happen today. Zhao Fu walked forward step by step, and the temperature became higher and higher. It was not something that ordinary people could withstand. Now, Zhao Fu's skin became dry and his lips cracked. His body felt pain, as if it was being burned. This was the ancient sun god's power. Even though Zhao Fu had a divine bloodline, it was difficult for him to withstand this power. However, Zhao Fu did not give up. He endured the pain and continued onwards while absorbing the massive sun god power, causing his body to slowly adapt to the rising temperature. Chapter 2061. Finally, Zhao Fu came to the center of the sun pool. The temperature there was already the highest, and there was no other place as hot as this place. Zhao Fu stood at the center of the pool, and he seemed to be at the center of the sun. However, his body seemed to be severely dehydrated, and his skin had become dry and wrinkled. His hair had withered, and he looked like a mummy. The burning sensation became more and more painful, and Zhao Fu continuously absorbed sun god power. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a massive aura exploded out from Zhao Fu's body. Tai Chi symbols floated out of Zhao Fu's chest, giving off intense black and white light, and they started to spin. Boom! An enormous suction force spread out as countless traces of sun god power flooded into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu closed his eyes and continuously refined the sun god power. The more sun god power Zhao Fu grasped, the stronger his resistance towards the heat became. The godly spirits watched in shock as Zhao Fu continuously devoured sun god power, and they felt that he was a monster. This was simply too terrifying, and they did not have the ability to do this. If they stepped in, they would most likely be roasted to death. However, Zhao Fu was not satisfied with this, and his body started to sink like the sun sinking into the water. Everyone was on the surface of the water, and the sun god power contained in the water was even more terrifying. However, this method was too ferocious and could not be controlled at all. It was like throwing dough into a pot of oil, and the massive heat would destroy one's body through the water. It was incredibly fast, and one would not have time to react. On the surface of the water, one could control the heat, which was much gentler. As such, everyone floated on the surface of the water and did not enter the water. Everyone watched in shock as Zhao Fu's body sank into the water, and they felt that Zhao Fu had gone crazy. He dared to do something like this. Was he not afraid of death? Zhao Fu's body completely sank into the water, and he did not stop. He continued to sink until he reached the bottom. There was an enormous skeleton on the ground, and it looked like a crow's skeleton. It was grayish-white, and it seemed to have been there for countless years. Its surface had been corroded, and there were many small holes. It gave off a blinding light and an extremely terrifying heat, as if it could burn everything. Inside Zhao Fu's skeleton, the Tai Chi pattern on his chest continued to spin, absorbing the divine power of the sun. Although Zhao Fu was currently feeling intense pain, he could clearly feel that his body was beginning to transform. If this continued, Zhao Fu's body would definitely obtain the Yang spirit constitution. Thinking of this, Zhao Fu felt somewhat happy. Time slowly passed. The people standing on the surface of the water saw that after Zhao Fu sank into the water, there was no reaction. They suspected that Zhao Fu might have died inside. However, because the distance was not very far, when they sensed carefully, they found that Zhao Fu was actually absorbing the sun god's power wantonly in their direction. Oh my god, this person is so scary. He actually dares to devour the sun god power so fiercely, and it's not even the sun god power. I can't do this. Yeah, that person has this kind of power. It looks like his identity is not simple. I wonder who he is. Seeing that he can withstand that heat with just his body, I feel that he is at least an imperial prince. If he continues to devour like this, will he absorb all the sun god power in the entire sun pond? That's not very possible. If it was so easy for others to devour all the sun god power, this sun pond would not have existed for so long. I heard that there is a formless power here that can absorb the power of the world to continuously replenish the sun god power. I also heard that the huge skeleton at the bottom of the pond still has its own consciousness. If it is provoked, it will emit endless heat and burn everything nearby. AI. Now that such a terrifying person has suddenly appeared, we can't cultivate in peace. Who knows what will happen next? Boom! Just as that person finished speaking, a huge explosion sounded out. The huge skeleton gave off golden flames, which automatically gathered into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu did not absorb the golden aura flames. Instead, the golden aura flames sensed something and automatically surged into Zhao Fu's body. At that moment, Zhao Fu opened his eyes in surprise. He sensed that the golden aura flames in his body were not harmful, so he did not stop them from surging out. As the golden aura flames surged out, the Tai Chi diagram in front of his chest stopped spinning and automatically dissipated. The Tai Chi diagram in Zhao Fu's body appeared, and it was absorbing the enormous golden aura flames. The black and white Tai Chi diagram absorbed the golden aura flames and gave off a golden light that shot out of Zhao Fu's body, causing Zhao Fu's body to also give off an intense golden light. Boom! A huge explosion sounded out, and the entire Sun Pond Sun power surged towards Zhao Fu like a tide. At that moment, Zhao Fu did not know why, but he did not feel any heat. The others sensed this and were all shocked. They stood up from the water and stared at the pond. They had no idea what was going on. Jiu Yin stood beside the Sun Pond and smiled. She naturally knew who had caused all of this. Zhao Fu was indeed as she had thought. He was very terrifying and definitely worthy of her loyalty. The golden aura flames on the countless skeletons surged into Zhao Fu's body. The Tai Chi diagram in his body spun quickly, and Zhao Fu felt a huge power erupt from his body. Zhao Fu could not help but roar towards the sky. Boom! A huge sound rang out as Zhao Fu's body exploded with an intense golden light. He rushed out of the water with immense power and continued into the sky. The surrounding power of heaven and earth rapidly surged into the light. Caw! A huge cry sounded out as a huge golden crow appeared in the sky. It flapped its wings and gave off an intense light. It was like a sun had appeared in the sky, and it gave off a powerful pressure. Everyone present was stunned. They looked at the golden crow in the sky and felt insignificant. Fear surfaced in their hearts. What the hell is going on? Why are there such huge fluctuations? Also, who gave off this huge golden crow? Everyone could not help but think that of the two people who had entered the Sun Pond, one had already come out, and there was only one left. That person might be the one who had caused the commotion. Apart from him, no one could think of anyone else. The few sun gods were also shocked by the golden crow in the sky. The aura that the golden crow gave off was the aura of the Sun Pond. This crow might be the remnant power or consciousness of the ancient sun god. Chapter 2062. However, this ancient golden crow's power had been dead for so many years, yet it was still so terrifying. At the same time, everyone felt envious. If they could obtain this ancient sun god power, their power would increase by leaps and bounds. It was a pity that they could not reach the center of the sun pool, much less enter the sun pool. They could only watch as the sun god power was obtained by someone else. Moreover, that person was stronger than them, and even if they wanted to snatch it, they could not do so. The massive golden crow flapped its wings and agilely flew in the sky, giving off intense light. It was like a sun moving in the sky, and a searing heat covered the ground. Everyone could clearly sense the surrounding heaven and earth power and the heat from the sun pool being absorbed by the golden crow. After a while, the golden crow released even more power and then dove down towards the sun pool. With a splash, it landed in the water and caused countless splashes. The golden crow continued to fly downwards, and it was quite fast before entering Zhao Fu's body. A massive wave of power spread out from Zhao Fu's body, causing Zhao Fu's body to go through great changes. Every part of his body was filled with sun god power, and the final wave of power split into two. One of them fused into Zhao Fu's soul, causing Zhao Fu's soul to become stronger and give off golden light. The other wave flowed into the Taiji diagram in his body, which absorbed that wave of power and gave off a trace of golden light. Now, Zhao Fu had a yang attribute soul and could absorb sunlight power like ordinary sun gods. He could also turn into a sun and unleash extremely powerful attacks. Anything that was useful to the sun god was useful to Zhao Fu, but it was not very useful to Zhao Fu. This was because Zhao Fu had too many methods and power. In comparison, this wave of power was not as powerful. However, even though it was not that powerful to Zhao Fu, this power belonged to the ancient sun god, and it would suppress other sun gods. Now, Zhao Fu stood at the bottom of the sun pool and could clearly sense that the temperature of the sun pool had decreased greatly. This was most likely related to the absorption of the sun god power. However, the power of the sun pond itself did not disappear. It still had a very high temperature, just not as high as before. Zhao Fu looked at the gigantic skeleton and saw that there were even more cracks on it. He walked up and wanted to check the skeleton, but he found that there was an invisible restriction on it. The restrictions were not very strong, and Zhao Fu used his power to break some of them and came in front of the massive head. Its head looked like a normal crow's skull, but it was incredibly big. It was 1,000 meters wide, and with its entire body, it was 100,000 meters wide. It was as big as the primogenitor statue. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and placed it on the skull, and a wave of energy spread out. Zhao Fu examined it and found that the bones were completely useless, and they could not be used to make any tools. After all, it had been dead for too long, and the bones had been severely corroded. If the ancient sun god's corpse had just died, then its value would be terrifying. Any random item could be made into a powerful divine weapon. However, if that was the case, it would not be Zhao Fu's turn to obtain it, and it would have long since been taken by others. The Sun Pond did not stop anyone from entering, and it was a place for some people to cultivate. Despite this, Zhao Fu still decided to see if he could revive the ancient sun god. The sun god power that Zhao Fu had just absorbed contained some faint consciousness, and it fused into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu planned to use this faint consciousness and power, as well as the 6 paths of reincarnation power, to try. If he could revive this ancient, godly spirit, it would be of great help to Zhao Fu. Perhaps Qin would have another existence like the primogenitor statue. As for how terrifying the primogenitor statue would be, it did not need to be said. Boom! A massive wave of power exploded out from Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu's skin became gray-white and his body became slender and well-proportioned. His hair became gray-white and he grew a pair of demon horns, and a pale white eye appeared on his forehead. Zhao Fu's body gave off a gray aura flame, and bone-chilling energy flooded out, giving off an incredibly ferocious aura. The surrounding sun pond's temperature suddenly plummeted, and the sun gods, standing at the surface of the sun pond, looked quite shocked. Why did the sun pond's temperature continuously fall? A massive wave of energy continuously spread out, and the golden sun pond's water gradually became gray. Sensing that massive wave of energy, the sun gods all looked slightly afraid and immediately left this place. Everyone else did the same, and everyone came to the outside of the sun pond. No one dared to stay within the sun pond. Now, the golden sun pond had become a gray sun pond, and traces of Qi rose up from the water surface. Everyone stood by the sun pond and felt a bone-chilling coldness. The people standing by the sun pond looked quite shocked. They understood who had caused this. Apart from Zhao Fu, there was no one else. Jiuyun also looked quite shocked. Zhao Fu's power was so terrifying and surpassed her expectations. This was Zhao Fu's true power, as expected from the second king of kings. The rumors about how terrifying he was were not false at all. Everyone else was looking forward to the battle between him and the other 2 Emperor stars, and she was also looking forward to it. She wanted to personally see just how powerful Zhao Fu was. The people beside the sun pond looked at Jiuyun with respect, because she was related to Zhao Fu. One of the sun gods could not help but go up and ask, "May I ask who this sir is?" A trace of a smile appeared on Zhou Yun's face as she said, "I can't tell you that. Also, it's best if you don't know too much about this, or else you might lose your lives." Hearing this, everyone felt quite startled. It seemed that this person's identity was far more terrifying than they had imagined. However, after thinking about it, they could accept that someone who could cause such terrifying ripples had a terrifying identity. However, some people did not dare to stay here anymore. Who knew what would happen next? Anyway, this had nothing to do with them, and if they lost their lives here, it would not be worth it. As such, some people hurriedly left, while others chose to stay, wanting to see what would happen next. The sun god spirit, who had gone up to talk to Zhou Yun, obediently retreated and looked at the gray sun pond. The other sun gods did not say anything, and their expressions were serious, as they also looked at the sun pond. Finally, their gazes returned to the bottom of the sun pond. Chapter 2063. Now, Zhao Fu was in the 6 paths of reincarnation state. Only in this state could he unleash the 6 paths of reincarnation's power to its greatest extent and revive the ancient godly spirit. The 6 paths of reincarnation's power was also related to this. Moreover, Zhao Fu had the method to summon souls, which was something that Zhao Fu had learned from someone else, who was the person who had revived Gui Ji. Zhao Fu took out countless soul-summoning flags. They were each 3 meters long and were made of wooden barrels. They were gray and had a pale white cloth. There was a soul character written on them, and they gave off ghostly chi. There were 1,000 or so soul-summoning flags, and under Zhao Fu's massive control, they floated in the air and gave off powerful auras. Because the ancient godly spirit's body was too big, Zhao Fu was unable to control the soul-summoning flags to fly that far. As such, his body gave off countless traces of ghostly chi, which continuously changed into 1,000 or so powerful ghosts. After these ghosts appeared, they followed Zhao Fu's instructions and took out a 3-meter-tall soul-summoning flag. They came around the massive corpse and formed a circle around it. Zhao Fu looked at the skull in front of him seriously and stretched out a hand. 6 massive waves of ghostly chi flowed out, forming 6 gray orbs of light. The 6 orbs of light gave off light and formed a magic formation with 6 circular diagrams. Boom! Zhao Fu vigorously pressed forwards, and a massive wave of 6 paths of reincarnation power flowed out of Zhao Fu's hand and entered the 6 paths of reincarnation magic formation. The 2-meter-wide 6 paths of reincarnation magic formation exploded out with a terrifying wave of 6 paths of reincarnation power that flowed towards the massive skull. After entering the skull, the wave of power flowed towards the other parts of the skull. It was as if there was a formless thread connecting the bones of the massive skull, forming a whole body instead of being separated like before. Boom! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as the ghosts holding the soul-beckoning flags exploded out with powerful Yin energy. They raised the soul-beckoning flags and sent powerful, ghostly energy into them. The banners fluttered in the wind, giving off an invisible and strange power. Every banner resonated with each other, forming an invisible circle that surrounded the giant skeleton. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out as the formless sphere gave off a massive suction force. The surrounding heaven and earth power was continuously sucked in, and it seemed to have a soul-devouring power as well. The people around the sun pond felt a huge suction force. Their expressions changed, and they quickly retreated. They felt as if the energy and souls within their bodies were being quickly absorbed by that power. Facing this power, they were unable to resist. After retreating further away, everyone's faces turned grave. What is that person doing? How did he cause such a huge commotion? Judging from the terrifying ghostly chi on his body, he should be an extremely noble person in the ghost race. His purpose for coming here is not simple. Just now, he fused with the ancient sun god's power. I really don't know what he wants to do now, but this power is really terrifying. He has already obtained the ancient sun god's power. What else is at the bottom of the pond that caused him to give off such a huge commotion? Wait, I know. The ancient sun god skeleton is at the bottom of the valley. Because it is not very useful, it has always been at the bottom of the pond. Could he be doing something to the ancient sun god skeleton? Right now, his goal should be to do something to the ancient god skeleton. Moreover, the ghost race is quite skilled in this aspect. The ancient god skeleton also contains great power. But this ancient god has been dead for who knows how many years. With his abilities, can he revive it? I don't quite believe it, because this is not something a human can do. I don't think so. I feel that the massive, ghostly chi that his body is giving off is not ordinary. It should be of an extremely high level. Perhaps it will cause some unknown results, but I'm not sure. Jillian also looked at the sun pool in front of her in shock. She knew that Zhao Fu had just absorbed the sun god's power. Now that he had absorbed it, she did not know what Zhao Fu was doing. Hearing the discussions of the sun gods, Jillian also believed that Zhao Fu was doing something to the ancient god skeleton. She was not very sure whether Zhao Fu could revive the ancient sun god, because the ancient sun god had been dead for many years. The massive power of heaven and earth surged into the huge skeleton. An invisible soul power seemed to be extracted from the ground and surged towards the huge skeleton. At that moment, Zhao Fu controlled the ancient god's consciousness that had fused into his body. Traces of the ancient god's consciousness and the ancient sun god's power emerged from his body. A golden three-legged crow the size of a palm emitted golden light and emerged from Zhao Fu's chest. Then it flapped its small wings and flew towards the skull agilely. Then it fused into the skull. After the three-legged crow fused into the huge skeleton, a fist-sized golden flame ignited in the originally silent skull. The skull seemed to have a hint of life, and the deathly stillness no longer existed. The fist-sized golden flame kept swaying. It seemed very small in the 1,000-meter-long skull. The light it emitted seemed very weak, as if it would be extinguished in a moment. Boom! A massive wave of 6 paths of reincarnation power surged out of Zhao Fu's body once again. The 6 paths of reincarnation array emitted even more powerful power. It surged into the huge skull and surged toward the entire body through the skull. The surrounding malicious spirits that raised the soul-beckoning flags injected their massive, ghostly power into the soul-beckoning flags. The circle that surrounded the huge skeleton emitted an even stronger suction force, constantly absorbing the power of heaven and earth. The invisible soul power also surged into the giant skull, and the golden flames in the skull gradually stabilized before strengthening bit by bit. The skull, which had originally contained a trace of life, now had more and more life force, and the golden flame within the skull became larger and larger. Following this, not only did the skull gain some life force, but the other bones also gained some life force. The golden flame within the skull became 1 meter wide and gave off an intense golden light. However, there was still a long way to go before the ancient god's consciousness could be revived. Moreover, with this power, the skeleton could only maintain its original state. Boom! A massive aura exploded out of Zhao Fu's body as 6 gray beams of light shot out of Zhao Fu's body and shot into the sky with immense power, giving off explosions. Seeing the 6 gray beams of light suddenly shoot out from the water, everyone felt quite startled. Chapter 2064. After the 6 rays of gray light shot into the sky, 6 gray vortexes appeared, and a massive energy aura spread out from the sky. The surrounding temperature plummeted, and heaven and earth power quickly gathered. Immediately, the weather changed as clouds swirled and the light dimmed. An eerie coldness spread out in the air, causing people's hairs to stand on end. The 6 gray vortexes absorbed more and more heaven and earth power, and the yin qi they gave off became more and more intense. They also gave off a massive might that suppressed everything in the heavens and earth. And from a distance, it seemed as if this place was covered by a haze. Everyone looked up at the sky in shock. This is the 6 paths of reincarnation power. Heavens, that person has the 6 paths of reincarnation power. Just who is that person? How does he have the power of the underworld sovereign? It's the first time I've personally seen the 6 paths of reincarnation power. We've encountered an extremely terrifying existence this time. He's most likely here to participate in the God competition, or else he would not have come to the God world from the underworld. There are so many experts in the God competition this time, and all of them are so terrifying. That's right. Apart from those with 2 Emperor stars, there are also a few other extremely powerful gods. It's even said that the 2nd King of Kings will be participating. We can't afford to offend such a person. After this is over, we can get to know him. It's rare to see such a powerful person, and perhaps it'll be an opportunity for us. This time, we've also come here from other forces to participate in the gods competition. Although there's no way for us to compete with him, as long as we enter the secret zone, there will be many benefits. When the time comes, he might be able to help us. Jillian also looked at the vortexes in shock. The power that Zhao Fu gave off surpassed her expectations time and time again, causing her to fall into shock. She had no idea just how terrifying Zhao Fu was. The 6 vortexes in the sky became larger and larger, and the might they gave off became greater and greater. The air seemed to freeze, making people feel quite uncomfortable, and traces of ghostly chi spread out. Boom, boom, boom. Massive explosions sounded out as 6 massive waves of power flowed out of the gray vortexes, bringing with them massive power as they flowed towards the skeleton at the bottom of the pool. They were incredibly fast, and it only took an instant. Massive amounts of 6 paths of reincarnation power flowed into the skeleton, causing it to tremble and give off faint light. The skeleton seemed to go through reincarnation, and a fresh aura of life spread out from it. The power of the 6 paths of samsara continuously flowed into the giant skeleton. The skeleton slowly regained its vitality, but it was still not enough. Zhao Fu retracted his hand, and the 6 paths of reincarnation magic formation disappeared. Zhao Fu came before the skull and took out a dagger and cut his palm, causing blood to flow out. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu pressed a hand against the skull, and powerful divine bloodline power continuously flowed into it. An even more intense life force flowed out from the corpse, and it exploded out with a terrifying might that instantly spread out. The people around the Sun Lake felt a massive might descend on their bodies, causing their bodies to sink. At the same time, the sun god power within their bodies started to become restless. Everyone looked incredibly shocked. There was only one reason for such a massive might to cause the sun god power to become restless, which was that the ancient sun god spirit had truly revived. Bang! A massive sound once again sounded out as the skeleton started to move. Zhao Fu pulled back his hand and took a few steps back. The massive 3-legged golden crow skeleton slowly stood up and flapped its bone wings. A massive wave of power flowed out as the golden crow's body flew out of the water and into the sky. Seeing such an enormous skeleton appear in the sky, everyone was completely dumbfounded. They were personally witnessing an ancient godly spirit revive. Scree! At that moment, the 6 vortexes in the sky spread out, and the enormous 3-legged golden crow corpse flapped its bone wings and let out a loud cry that rang out in all directions. Its body gave off a brilliant golden light as the surrounding heaven and earth power continuously surged into its body. The originally grayish-white bones gradually turned a faint gold color as the world power flowed into them. The potholes on the bones that had been eroded by the world power also disappeared. The bones gave off a tough aura, and they were no longer as fragile as before. Zhao Fu flew out of the water and looked at the massive 3-legged golden crow skeleton in the sky. After absorbing countless traces of heaven and earth power, the three-legged golden crow skeleton gave off a golden light and stopped in the sky, and the abnormal signs around it gradually disappeared. Even though the three-legged golden crow looked incredibly massive, it was actually quite weak. Moreover, because it had been dead for so long, even if it revived, it would not have any memories. Its mind was completely blank, and it only had its instincts. Furthermore, its body was still a skeleton and had not grown any flesh. It would probably take a long time for it to recover to its previous state. At that moment, the golden crow skeleton turned its head and looked at Zhao Fu seriously. It felt a sense of familiarity and intimacy from this person, so it flew down from the sky and landed in front of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu smiled. This three-legged golden crow was resurrected by Zhao Fu, so he naturally had a way to control it. Even if it resisted, it would be useless. Sensing the massive aura that the golden crow was emitting, if it was nurtured, its power would definitely be terrifying. When that time came, Qin would have another capable helper. Imagining the three-legged golden crow emitting intense light in the sky like a real sun, with countless Qin's soldiers below, it was a very shocking scene. He could not stay in this place for long, as it would cause a lot of disturbances. Even though it was suppressed due to the special reasons of this place, people might still notice it. Therefore, Zhao Fu waved his hand and put the huge, three-legged golden crow skeleton into a spirit pet ring. Then, Zhao Fu flew in front of Jiu Yun. Jiu Yun smiled with a hint of excitement as she said, "Congratulations, my lord, on obtaining such a treasure." Zhao Fu responded with a smile. "Let's go then." At that moment, a few sun gods walked over and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, my lord." Zhao Fu was a bit surprised and did not know why these sun gods were suddenly looking for him. He replied simply, "Yes. What can I do for you?" A sun god said with a smile, "I'm lucky to meet my lord today, so I want to get to know you." Zhao Fu chuckled. He would not stay here for long, nor was he interested in these sun gods. "Let's meet again in the future. I have something to do, so I'll leave first." Then, Zhao Fu quickly flew away with Jiu Yun. Chapter 2065. After Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun left, some people were attracted by the ripples and came to this place. However, after taking a simple look around, they did not pay much attention and left. After the ancient sun god's corpse left, the heat from the sun pond greatly weakened. However, it still contained intense heat. They did not have to stay on the surface of the water to cultivate, and they could directly enter the water. Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun returned to the tavern and examined their bodies in their rooms before smiling. Now that they had obtained the Sun Soul, Zhao Fu only needed to obtain 3 more attributes to obtain the Yin-Yang 5 Elements Constitution. This would prepare him for awakening the Spirit Race's Emperor Star. After awakening the Spirit Race's Emperor Star, it would be the Water Race's Emperor Star. There was also the massive 3-legged golden crow corpse. It needed very powerful sun attribute power to recover, and Zhao Fu had to find treasures like that for in the future. Zhao Fu looked forward to seeing it recover its full power. Jiu Yun also smiled and said, "Sir, what should we do next? Do we continue to search for the time god?" Zhao Fu thought about it before replying, "There's no need. There are only a few days left until the gods competition. We just have to wait for it to begin. We'll definitely encounter the time god in the secret realm. So the most important thing to do now is to find something that can counter the time god." Jiu Yun smiled and nodded. Following this, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun went to the various shops to gather information and to buy things that could counter the time god. They definitely could not let the time god escape next time. Days passed, and more godly spirits gathered from all directions. The Godly World Center became more and more bustling, and there were many people everywhere. However, as time passed, many terrifying experts searched for Zhao Fu even more frequently. If they could not catch Zhao Fu now, they might not be able to catch Zhao Fu in the future. Some terrifying experts used their powerful senses to cover a large region and sense everyone within to see if Zhao Fu was among them. After sensing a place, those terrifying figures would head to the next place and start a search thoroughly. Zhao Fu's eyes lit up, and Zhao Fu's eyes lit up. Boom! Just as Zhao Fu and Zhao Fu were in the inn, a powerful will descended, causing the entire city to fall silent. Following this, that terrifying will gave off an unstoppable power as it swept past everyone's bodies and disappeared. The people who had calmed down once again spoke up, and the quiet city once again became lively. It's already the 8th time today. Just what are these experts doing? They're making me so nervous. I'm afraid that I'll die to their wills. You don't even know that? Those experts are looking for the second King of Kings. You should have heard about the King of Kings, right? There's no need to say more about how terrifying he is. Yeah, these experts all want to find Zhao Fu and figure out his identity, as well as the secrets he's hiding. This is a fatal attraction to these experts, so these experts are willing to pay any price to find him. Sigh, it's a pity. I wonder if the second King of Kings dares to come to the center of the godly world. I wanted to see the battle between him and the god race's geniuses, but it seems that I won't have that chance. It's quite a pity. His battles in the Outlander world were incredibly shocking, and I was looking forward to seeing his true power. However, he most likely won't dare to come anymore. With so many experts searching, he won't be able to hide. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. This isn't something we can interfere with. Moreover, a battle between two people with Emperor stars is quite interesting. Within the inn, Zhao Fu looked at the sky seriously. With so many higher beings searching for him, if he did not have that command medallion, Zhao Fu would have been discovered by that expert. Even though Zhao Fu had been hiding his aura, he was unable to resist the senses of such an expert, so Zhao Fu would still have been discovered. However, now that he had this command medallion, he did not have to worry about anything. 10 or so days had passed, and Zhao Fu wondered how the moon god Sprout was doing in the Celestial Spirit Palace. He also wondered if Yilanshi would be in any danger after entering the darkness forbidden region. The moon god Sprout going to the Celestial Spirit Palace was a very good thing. As a Saint-class faction, the Celestial Spirit Palace would be able to unleash all of the moon god Sprout's potential, and the moon god Sprout would become a celestial there. Zhao Fu was more worried about Yilanshi, as he was not sure what was going on there. The power there was terrifying, and even Zhao Fu would not be able to defend against it. It was very likely that Yilanshi would die there. Jiu Yun smiled as she held a wine flask and walked over to Zhao Fu. Sir, this is a new wine that I brewed. Do you want to try it? Over the next few days, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun did not have much to do and were waiting for the competition to begin. Jiu Yun did not have much to do, so she started to brew wine, and Zhao Fu gave her many precious ingredients. Zhao Fu lightly smiled and nodded. Following this, the two of them sat at a table and tasted the wine. They even ordered a table full of dishes, and they chatted with smiles on their faces. Jiu Yun really wanted to know everything about Zhao Fu, but everything about Zhao Fu was too mysterious, and no one knew anything about him. She was also incredibly curious as to why such a terrifying person like Zhao Fu had appeared. Zhao Fu answered some simple questions, satisfying some of Jiu Yun's curiosity. However, Jiu Yun's face became red as she sat on Zhao Fu's body, and she took off her clothes, revealing her enchanting body, wanting to offer herself to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked at Jiu Yun in his arms and felt quite helpless. He could only look at her and not touch her. If Zhao Fu was the same as before, Zhao Fu would have long since tasted Jiu Yun. Actually, as the god of wine, Jiu Yun's body gave off an enchanting wine fragrance, which was quite tempting. Jiu Yun could also see that Zhao Fu was quite interested in her, so she seduced Zhao Fu even more. However, nothing happened in the end. A few days later, the competition that many of the deities had been waiting for finally began. Countless deities gathered in one place like a tide. There was nothing special about that place. It was just a huge platform that was 1/10 the size of the world. It was made of milky white jade. Now, the platform was filled with people so densely packed that it was impossible to count them. It was unknown how many deities were participating in this competition. At the front of the platform, There was a large jade platform on which long tables had been set up. There were spirit fruits and wine on the tables, and beautiful maidservants stood around, as well as guards with powerful auras. Chapter 2066. People giving off terrifying auras descended from the sky and landed on the jade stage. These experts were all people from large factions in the godly world. This competition was the biggest event in the godly world, and almost all of the large factions people had returned. Apart from these people from the godly world, there were also some experts from the Heaven Awakened world. No one knew what their goal was. With so many people gathered on the stage, some people stood where they were, waiting for the competition to begin, while others gathered together and chatted. The scene was quite grand and lively, and it was incredibly noisy. Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun had long since arrived here and stood in a hidden corner, waiting for the competition to begin. No one noticed Zhao Fu because there were simply too many people. Even though Zhao Fu was wearing a cloak, many people with cloaks looked quite mysterious. They would never have thought that the second king of 10,000, who would not come to the competition, was hiding beside them. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a ferocious aura spread out. A 3-meter-tall, well-built young man with fluffy golden hair and golden eyes flew down from the sky and landed at the front of the stage. Everyone's gazes fell on him as they excitedly cried out. This person was quite famous in the godly world and was one of the strongest competitors for the position of God's ruler. He was called the 100 Beast God, and this godly spirit was a type of beast god. However, he was far more powerful than ordinary beast gods. Ordinary beast gods only had one type of ordinary beast god power, while the 100 Beast God had 100 Beast God power, which was dozens of times more powerful than ordinary beast gods. He naturally came from a very large faction, one of the most powerful factions in the godly world. His name was 100 Beast Gone. 100 Beast Gone landed on the stage and crossed his arms as he looked at the people around him condescendingly. The people around him did not dare to stand next to him and obediently retreated to the side. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a holy and pure aura spread out. A young man with silver-white hair and silver-white eyes wearing white robes appeared, giving off a warm aura. She was the light god and had extremely powerful light energy. The light god force she was in was also one of the strongest forces in the god realm and was supported by countless people in the god realm. It was one of the most popular god spirit forces. The name of the god of light was Hikari Kamui. After Hikari Kamui appeared on the platform, he had a faint smile on his face. The people around him had heard about all kinds of things about him and knew that he was not a person who would bully others casually. Therefore, they were not afraid of him and had excited smiles on their faces. Some people couldn't help but step forward to greet him. Hikari Kamui was gentle and gave a simple response. Everyone couldn't help but crowd around him like stars surrounding the moon. Hikari Kamui was also one of the strongest competitors for the Lord of Pantheon. If they could have even the slightest relationship with such a person, it would be an unimaginable benefit. Usually, they would not be able to get rid of someone of his level. Boom! Boom! Another 2 massive explosions sounded out as 2 powerful rays of light, giving off massive auras shot over from the horizon. One was surrounded by violet arcs of lightning, while the other was black and gave off devouring power. The 2 rays of light gave off massive auras as they landed on the platform, causing shockwaves to ripple out as 2 figures appeared in front of everyone. One had short violet hair that stood on end, making him look like a hedgehog. He was tall and had a coarse face, and he was not wearing any clothes. His body was surrounded by countless arcs of lightning, giving off a massive might. The other had messy gray hair and was dressed in clothes. He had a skinny body and an ugly face, and he gave off a devouring power that devoured the energy around him. No one dared to get close. The violet-haired big man was a lightning god called Lei Tianba. He came from a very powerful lightning god faction, and was also someone who was competing for the Lord of Pantheon. Lei Tianba had lightning power, which was the most noble lightning emperor's power. It had terrifying destructive power and could easily destroy anything. There was nothing that could stop his power. The ugly young man was a devouring god called Corpse Devourer. He came from a very terrifying faction in the godly world, which was called the God-devouring faction. Every godly spirit in this faction was a devouring god, and they had the power to devour everything. Corpse Devourer was the most terrifying of the devouring gods, and his devouring power was dozens of times stronger than ordinary devouring gods. Ordinary devouring gods were not a match for him at all, and they could only feel terror when facing him. Because he was ugly, Corpse Devourer was quite perverted, and he liked to eat anyone who made him unhappy. Ordinary people did not dare to offend him at all, and they could only run when they saw him. As such, when Corpse Devourer appeared, everyone looked terrified and quickly retreated, creating a large space for him. The two competitors, who were both master of Pantheon, attracted the attention of everyone present. Many of the powerhouses on the high platform were also sizing them up with great interest. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a silver-white ray of light, giving off a massive aura, descended from the sky and landed on the ground. Countless traces of silver-white moonlight scattered as a figure appeared in front of everyone. The person who had come was dressed in a white palace dress and had jet black hair. She was extremely beautiful, had fair skin, and had a graceful figure. She gave off a cold aura, and she looked like an unreachable celestial maiden. This woman was a moon god, and she was called Yuchan. She came from the godly world's most powerful moon god faction, which was the 9 moon goddesses. Yuchan was this generation's goddess of the 9 moon goddesses, and she had the purest moon god constitution and pure moon god power. It was said that her soul had fused with the moon, and she had terrifying power. At the same time, with her world-shaking beauty and celestial spirit's aura, she looked like a celestial maiden who lived in the moon palace. She was one of the top beauties in the godly world. She was a powerful competitor in this generation, and she was loved and supported by countless people. Suddenly, crimson flowers slowly descended from the sky, looking like a rain of flowers. At the same time, a powerful aura spread out. Everyone saw a woman wearing a white dress. She had long black hair and platinum-colored eyes. She gave off a noble aura and a celestial spirit's aura, making her seem like a celestial. She was followed by 6 beautiful maids who carried flower baskets and sprinkled flowers on the ground. Following this, she brought the 6 female attendants and descended from the sky. This attracted the gazes of countless people, and everyone automatically made way for them. She was the goddess palace's goddess, and she was called Shun Qianhua. She was the most powerful goddess in the goddess palace, and she had sent people to bring back Nu Chun. However, Nu Chun had been taken away by Zhao Fu. Chapter 2067. The goddess palace was the most powerful female faction in the god realm, and they had a lot of influence in the hearts of the women in the god realm. Adding on that their methods were quite crazy and twisted, many people feared them and did not dare to offend them. Shun Qianhua's talent was extraordinary, and she was the most outstanding person in the goddess palace. She had goddess power, and more accurately, it was a high-level celestial power. It was extremely terrifying, and it was dozens of times more powerful than ordinary godly spirit power. At the same time, Shun Qianhua had done many terrifying things in the god realm, such as castrating millions of men, hanging an imperial prince naked at the city gates, and massacring a faction that cultivated evil techniques. Everyone was scared when they saw her. Even though she was quite beautiful, she was too vicious and cruel back then, like a poisonous flower. Shun Qianhua gave a trace of a smile as she brought her 6 female attendants in front of Yuchan and smiled. "Long time no see. Chan Air." Yuchan frowned and said coldly, "I'm not familiar with you, so don't call me that." Shun Qianhua laughed out loud, his voice slightly overbearing. "You're a woman that I've taken a fancy to, so naturally, you're my woman. This time, I'll definitely obtain you. Right now, my goddess power is even stronger." Yuchan's beautiful eyes coldly looked at Shun Qianhua as she said, Oh, we'll know once we enter the secret realm. Shun Xianhua smiled as she said, I also want the secret realm to open quickly. Yuchan looked away and did not say anything else. Shin Xianhua brought her 6 female attendants and stood next to Yuchan, seeing that Yuchan did not want to pay any attention to her. Shun Xianhua did not mind and looked ahead, waiting for the competition to begin. In the distance, Zhao Fu looked at Shun Xianhua and the others in surprise. Zhao Fu did not recognize Shun Xianhua, but he recognized one of the female attendants behind her. It was the mature woman who had wanted to take Envy Chun with her. He had never thought that he would meet her here. Thinking about what she had said before, Zhao Fu quickly understood Shun Xianhua's identity. She was the goddess of the goddess palace. Boom! A massive wave of killing intent descended, causing the surrounding temperature to plummet. Everyone's hairs stood on end, and they felt a wave of fear as they looked towards the sky. A cold-looking young man with blood-red hair, blood-red eyes, and blood-red clothes appeared in the sky. His body gave off a blood-red light, and he gave off an extremely powerful killing intent, causing the atmosphere to become extremely dangerous. The crimson-haired young man's name was Sha Ming, and he was a killing god. He came from the most terrifying killing god faction in the divine world. This faction was filled with killing gods, and every single one of them was extremely bloodthirsty. It was unknown how much blood their hands were stained with, and they were extremely terrifying. They were also incredibly powerful as they focused on killing and slaughtering. As they grew stronger and stronger, no one could stop them. Their existence caused all of the gods in the god world to feel fear. The killing god faction was the second most powerful faction in the godly world. Even though the blood-haired young man had not awakened an Emperor Star, his strength was incredibly close to an Emperor Star. He had mastered the power of the Slaughter Origin. This Slaughter Origin was unimaginably terrifying. If he met a god, he would kill a god. If he met a Buddha, he would kill a Buddha. If he met a myriad of living beings, he could kill the heavens. There was nothing he couldn't kill. Some people guessed that if he could obtain the position of the ruler of all gods, he would definitely awaken the god race's Emperor Star. Sha Ming descended from the sky and coldly looked around. Everyone felt as if they had been stabbed by a saber, and they quickly retreated in fear, trying to get away from that place. Sha Ming looked away and did not do anything else. Zhao Fu's expression became quite serious. He could sense that these people were all incredibly powerful, and he felt a wave of pressure within his heart. This was especially so for Sha Ming. He was the most terrifying person out of all of them, and his killing power was incredibly terrifying. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion sounded out as a powerful 10,000 godly might descended. Sensing this might, the godly spirits' expressions fell, and they quickly retreated. A figure giving off a powerful aura appeared on the stage. This figure was 2 meters tall and had a muscular body. He looked like a demon and had 2 pairs of black wings on his back. He gave off a demonic chi, and his power was incredibly great, as if he reigned above 10,000 godly spirits. Seeing this figure and sensing that terrifying aura, the scene fell silent. Everyone knew who this person was and automatically made way for him. He was the most terrifying person in recent years and the most legendary person. In just 10 years, he had gone from a weak, godly spirit to an existence that countless people could only look up to. Moreover, his abilities were incredibly terrifying, and he had the power to devour countless godly spirits. As he devoured more and more, his 10,000 godly power became more and more powerful. Countless godly spirits greatly feared him. He was even more terrifying than the god of devouring, and he was like a ferocious demon. Everyone often heard of his name, and he was the most famous person in recent years. His current power could rival Sha Ming's, and his strength was incredibly close to that of an Emperor Star. He was one of the most powerful competitors for the position of the ruler of all gods. Some people guessed that if he could obtain the position of the ruler of all gods, he would definitely awaken the god race's Emperor Star. His appearance caused countless factions to feel incredibly envious. How could the demon god emperor be so lucky to find such a peerless genius in the outer domains of the godly world? Geniuses of this level were incredibly rare, and even within many terrifying factions, there were not many people like him. Some people said that his potential was even more terrifying than that of someone with 2 Emperor's stars. After all, he had grown from a weak, godly spirit to such a terrifying state in just 10 years, which was even faster than someone with 2 Emperor's stars. It could be said to be a miracle. No one knew why such a terrifying person had appeared or why he had the power to devour godly spirits. If he continued to grow at this speed, his future accomplishments would definitely not be any weaker than someone with 2 Emperor stars, and he might even surpass someone with 2 Emperor stars. Even though his strength was about the same as Sha Ming's, everyone acknowledged that his potential was greater than Sha Ming's, and he would surpass Sha Ming sooner or later. Now, he was the person that the Demon God Emperor placed the most importance on, and the Demon God Emperor would not refuse any of his requests. Moreover, he would fully support him, believing that he would lead the Demon God Emperor to the peak in the future. Zhao Fu looked at that figure in shock. Hearing the voices around him, Zhao Fu realized who this person was. He was the most famous god Ke, the Demon God Emperor's emperor. He was the skinny god Ke from Zhao Fu's memories. In just 10 short years, he had become so terrifying. This was simply shocking. Zhao Fu was now certain of his identity. Even though his appearance had changed greatly, the divinity in Zhao Fu's mind strongly reacted to him. Luckily, he had the command medallion, or else he would have sensed that he was here. Chapter 2068. This competition of the gods could resolve this enmity, so Zhao Fu looked away and did not say anything else. After landing on the stage, God Ke gave a domineering and cold smile. Everyone's expressions were filled with fear, and they couldn't help but retreat, not daring to get close to him. The other peerless geniuses looked at God Ke with serious expressions. They knew how powerful God Ke was and had heard all sorts of things about God Ke. To them, God Ke had become so powerful in just 10 years, making them feel quite shocked. After all, they did not have the ability to do such a thing. Of course, they did not know that God Ke had become so powerful because of another person. God Ke looked around and did not pay any attention to anyone else. With the God Demon Emperor's help, it had devoured over 10,000 godhoods, and the terrifying power gave it immense confidence. Its goal this time was to awaken the God Race's Emperor Star. If it had a massive God Race's Emperor Star, it would not lose to that person in terms of fate. Moreover, it was now even more powerful. With this power and fate, even if it faced that person in the future, it would not fear that person at all. It knew that it was all thanks to that person that it had become so powerful, and it did not have the ability to do so by itself. What was important was that it had been affected by that person, and if it could devour that person and fuse all of that person's power, its power and fate would be more than 100 times greater than it was now. When that time came, who could compete with it? The experts on the stage also paid attention to God Ke. They had heard about God Ke, and some of the people sitting next to the God Demon Emperor's faction even praised God Ke. This caused the God Demon Emperor's faction to smile and feel that they had gained a lot of face. God Ke was indeed a pleasant surprise for them, and it was far beyond what they had expected. Back then, the emperor that they had nurtured with all of their strength had still been defeated by God Ke. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out as a ray of black light, giving off a massive aura descended. A massive aura of destruction flooded out, causing everyone to cry out. 2 figures appeared on the stage. One was a woman with long, violet hair and a peerlessly beautiful face. She was tall and slim, and she wore black clothes. She gave off a cold aura and an intense aura of destruction, as well as an intense might. This pressure seemed to be innately above them, and it was a pressure that only the God Race's Imperial Star possessed. The other was her maid. She had a beautiful face and a mature figure. Her aura was not weak either. The violet-haired woman's appearance attracted everyone's gazes, and God Ke looked at her with a serious expression. This was because the violet-haired woman was one of the two possessors of Emperor Stars. Even though she came from the Heaven-Awakened world's godly domain, and most people did not know much about her, just from the might she gave off, everyone knew who she was. She was one of the three people that countless people were looking forward to in the contest of the gods. Although her appearance caused everyone to look excited and agitated, she had also made a brief introduction of herself. She was the god of destruction and came from the strongest faction in the god realm. Her name was Glace. In the godly domain, as the owner of an Emperor Star, she was extremely famous. There were all sorts of things about her in the godly domain, and she was extremely legendary. She was someone that everyone in the godly domain valued. The godly domain's strength had always been below that of the godly world, and the godly world had an innate advantage. The power here was a holy land for godly spirits, so the godly domain had always been suppressed by the godly world. As such, there are some people in the godly world who look down on the godly domain's people, causing many conflicts between the godly world and the godly world. There had even been a few battles, resulting in many losses. Adding on the threat of other races, they had finally given up on fighting. The godly world no longer dared to look down on the godly domain, and the godly domain had started to fear the godly world. Mielu's goal in coming to the godly world was to represent the godly domain and become the ruler of all gods. She wanted the other gods in the godly world to understand how powerful the godly domain was. At the same time, she would use the massive amount of fate from becoming the ruler of all gods, as well as the support of many godly spirits, causing her power and faction to become even more powerful. After Mielu appeared, she did not pay much attention to the people around her, because the two people she cared about were not here yet. Those two people were the ones that she acknowledged as her opponents, and she did not care about anyone else. As for those two people, one was naturally the possessor of the godly world's Emperor Star, and the other was Zhao Fu. Boom! Not too long after, an explosion sounded out as the sky trembled and a massive aura spread out. A rainbow-colored ray of light containing immense power landed on the stage, and a might covered the surroundings. This caused countless godly spirits to feel an innate might. It was a might that only the possessor of the god race's supreme Emperor Star could have. After the light dissipated, a white-clothed young man with a cold expression and an emotionless expression appeared before everyone's eyes. He was the person that everyone in the godly world paid attention to, and he was the most terrifying person in the godly world's younger generation. He was the possessor of the supreme Emperor Star, and he was called Tianyu. The most powerful factions in the godly world were called the World God factions. These godly spirits had World Source God power, which was a very high-level power. Godly spirits with this kind of power were much more powerful than ordinary godly spirits. As this generation's god's son, Tianyu was undoubtedly the most outstanding person, and the World Source God power he had was the purest kind. There were all sorts of things about him in the godly world, and all of them were shocking. Almost everyone in the godly world knew about him. If it was not for Zhao Fu, he would have been the greatest competitor for the position of Master of Gods. He was an unsurmountable mountain in front of countless people. As the most powerful expert in the godly world, his appearance caused the entire crowd to go into an uproar, and everyone excitedly cried out his name. This was the treatment that the most powerful expert in the godly world received. He was worshipped, watched, envied, loved, and envied by countless people. Facing everyone's cheers, Tianyu's expression did not change at all, and he coldly stood there. There was a reason why Tianyu was like this. In order to make his world source god power as powerful as possible and to better control it, he had made his consciousness mimic the heaven and earth's consciousness. His world source god power seemed to be like the heaven and earth's power, and his control over the world source god power had reached the pinnacle. However, he had lost a lot of his emotions, which was why he looked so cold and emotionless. However, because his power surpassed ordinary people's imaginations, he was able to become the most powerful person in the godly world, reigning above countless godly spirits. Chapter 2069. Tianyu's gaze fell on Mielu's body. From the moment he had arrived, he had sensed Mielu's existence. Similarly, Mielu had sensed Tianyu's existence when he had arrived. The two sovereign god race emperor stars could sense each other, and as they looked at each other, it was as if no one else existed. Their expressions became slightly serious as they understood how powerful the other was. They knew that the other was one of the most powerful opponents, and if they wanted to become the ruler of all gods, they had to defeat the other. I look forward to our battle. I hope that you can display your full power, or else you'll lose to me. Lioli said to Tianyu with a serious expression. Tianyu's expression was cold as he said calmly, "Is that so? However, it's impossible for me to lose to you. I also look forward to our battle. I want to see just how powerful you are as someone with a divine domain emperor star." Mielu gave a trace of a domineering smile as she said, "I won't disappoint you. We'll know who wins and who loses after this." Tianyu was expressionless as he looked away and did not say anything else. Mielu looked away and smiled as she looked ahead. The female attendant next to her also smiled as she stood by her side. She believed that her master would be able to defeat Tianyu. Now that the person with two emperor stars had appeared, everyone's gazes were gathered on them. The people around them did not even dare to breathe too loudly. Their battle was indeed the battle that everyone was looking forward to the most. Time gradually passed, and everyone could not help but feel a trace of anticipation because that person had not appeared yet. If they were looking forward to seeing the person with two emperor stars, then the person with 6 emperor stars, who was the second king of kings, was 100 times more so. It was not just the ordinary people. The terrifying experts on the stage were also looking forward to his appearance. Many people had long since heard about how terrifying he was and what terrifying things he had done, but they had not personally seen just how terrifying he was. Therefore, many people were even more looking forward to the appearance of such a person who shocked the world and was the focus of everyone's attention, to receive their admiration and admiration. Tianyu and Mielu also wanted to see that person with 6 emperor stars. If he appeared, he would be their most powerful opponent, and they did not have the confidence to defeat such a terrifying person. That person was like a massive boulder weighing down on their hearts. To them, only that person could make them feel like this. Even if they met someone else with an emperor star, they would not feel such pressure. However, even though everyone was looking forward to it, they knew that it was impossible for that person to appear. After all, there were countless higher beings on the platform waiting for him to appear. If he appeared, it would be almost impossible for him to escape, as no one could escape from so many higher beings. The only outcome was death, and that person would not be so stupid as to appear here. What they didn't know was that the person they were looking forward to was already here, hiding in the crowd and quietly watching everything. Time passed bit by bit, and the crowd's expectations for that person gradually decreased. In the end, they looked ahead because the competition was about to begin. Boom! A heaven-shaking explosion rang out, causing the entire godly world to tremble. Countless rays of white light shot down from the sky, and a boundless divine might weighed down on everything in the world. Everyone felt incredibly small and powerless. This was the might that the Pantheon mirror gave off. The competition between the leaders of the gods was something that the Pantheon mirror approved of, so it had a lot to do with it. Otherwise, that secret realm would not have existed in front of the Pantheon mirror for such a long time and received its various buffs. Under such immense divine might, the higher beings all looked quite serious. In front of this power, they could not resist at all. Heaven and earth power quickly gathered in the sky, continuously condensing and compressing, forming an enormous white orb. This orb was 100,000 meters wide and looked like a white piece of jade. There were countless divine runes on it, and it gave off an extremely powerful aura. It was right on the platform, and it was incredibly shocking. Boom! Divine runes lit up on the surface of the orb, and a massive might spun out and landed on the countless godly spirits' bodies on the platform. The countless people on the platform felt a massive power weigh down on their bodies, as if a small mountain was weighing down on them. The godly spirits used their divine power to resist that might. The competition of the gods was not something that just anyone could participate in. First, one had to have divinity. If one did not even have divinity, one would be heavily injured by the orb, and without divinity, one could not participate in the competition of the gods. Moreover, one had to have a certain amount of power to enter the secret realm. Ordinary godly spirits did not have the right to enter either. This was a test that would eliminate most of the people who did not meet the requirements. If it was an expert, they would not be affected at all, but some of the weaker people could not hold on and fell to the ground. As long as someone fell to the ground, the divine runes on the sphere would flash, and an invisible force would toss the person who had fallen off the platform. Zhao Fu's expression was normal and did not change at all. This might did not affect Zhao Fu much, and Zhao Fu could easily endure it. Time gradually passed. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out once again, and another wave of pressure descended on the platform, causing everyone's bodies to sink again. Those who had been trembling and sweating profusely could not endure it anymore and collapsed to the ground, panting and feeling quite embarrassed. This might was only a basic test, and if one could not even pass the basic test, it meant that one's power was not enough, and one would not even have a right to enter the secret realm. The divine runes on the orb once again flashed, and those who had collapsed to the ground were all thrown off the platform. Everyone else continued to take the test and endured the massive might. Boom! A while later, a massive might once again descended, weighing down on the godly spirits' bodies. This might was quite powerful, and even the more powerful godly spirits used their godly divinity's power. Their bodies gave off different rays of light to resist that might. Many people were unable to endure this might and collapsed to the ground, after which they were thrown off the platform. The platform had been filled with people, but now, more than half of them were gone. A while later, the massive jade orb in the sky dissipated, and the might disappeared. The pressure also disappeared. Only those who were able to stand on the platform now had the right to participate in the gods' competition. Chapter 2070. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out as heaven and earth power quickly gathered, forming a mirror frame without a mirror. The mirror frame gave off a white light, and no one knew what was inside. The mirror frame was extremely big and was 10,000 meters wide. It was white and looked quite simple and unadorned. There were many divine runes engraved on it, and it gave off a might. This was the entrance to the secret realm, and as long as one entered the mirror, one would be able to enter the secret realm. However, things were not that simple. Boom! 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 Massive explosions sounded out in the sky as 24 pillars of white light containing terrifying power descended from the sky, blocking in front of the massive mirror, and massive ripples spread out. Heaven and earth power continuously gathered and flowed into the 24 pillars of light. The pillars of light gradually disappeared, and 24 images appeared in the sky. These 24 images were all hazy, but it was possible to tell that there were men and women, young and old. They gave off ancient god power, causing the air to freeze, and everyone felt a wave of fear. The 24 images in front of the mirror were not ordinary. They were the 24 ancient god lords of legends, and it was they who had started the era of godly spirits. These 24 images were formed from the power of 24 god lords and were not true god lords. They were not as powerful as true god lords, but they were still very powerful and could not be defeated by ordinary people. This was the second and final test of the contest of gods. The first test eliminated those who did not have the right to participate. Those who wanted to participate had to have some strength. The second test was that there had to be experts participating in the gods' competition, and there had to be 24 of them. These 24 experts had to defeat 24 images each to open the entrance to the secret realm. Otherwise, only those who defeated images could enter the secret realm, and no one else had the right to enter. There were countless treasures within the secret realm, and all of them were incredibly precious. Many factions wanted to obtain them, but if only a few people could enter, it would be a heavy blow. Countless people stood on the stage and looked at the images of the god lords giving off different divine lights in the sky. The weather changed and clouds swirled, and everyone felt an intense pressure. The 24 of them seemed to rule the world. Right now, everyone could only hope that the 24 experts could defeat the 24 god lords, or else they could only watch. Tian Yu's expression was ice cold, and he was the first to attack. He turned into a rainbow-colored ray of light and gave off a massive aura as he flew incredibly quickly towards the mirror. Boom! One of the 24 images gave off a massive aura and blocked in front of Tian Yu, giving off boundless azure divine light. Seeing the image in front of him, Tian Yu did not have any intentions of stopping. Heaven and earth power quickly flowed into his body, forming a rainbow-colored ball. Within the rainbow ball, there seemed to be a world. The rainbow ball brought with it a terrifying power as it smashed towards the image. The illusory figure raised a hand that gave off a massive amount of ancient god power as it grabbed towards Tian Yu, seeming to be able to crush a mountain. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the massive rainbow orb gave off immense power and blasted apart the image, causing a terrifying shockwave to ripple out and form an intense gale. The rainbow orb that Tian Yu gave off dissipated, and Tian Yu's body continued to fly towards the mirror before shooting into it and disappearing. How did he defeat a god lord image so easily? Everyone looked at Tian Yu's disappearing figure in shock. They felt that he had defeated a god lord image in an instant. Boom! A valiant-looking big man gave off a massive aura as he shot into the sky like a cannonball. He gave off a ferocious momentum as if he could destroy anything. At that moment, another image once again flew out and blocked in front of the big man. It raised its hand and vigorously slapped out, causing the sky to seem to be torn apart. Bang! The big man was directly struck, and his body was like a massive boulder as he heavily slammed into the ground, giving off a massive sound and causing rocks to fly everywhere. The valiant-looking big man coughed up a large mouthful of blood and fainted within the crater. Before, the big man had thought that god lords would be easy to deal with, and he had wanted to defeat one to show off. However, he had greatly underestimated how powerful god lords were. They were not things that he could defend against. Now that he was heavily injured, he showed everyone just how powerful god lords were. The reason why Tian Yu had been able to defeat an ancient god lord image so easily was not because the ancient god lord image was too weak, but because Tian Yu was too powerful. Boom! An explosion once again sounded out as Miel Lu gave off a massive aura and rushed into the sky. His body gave off an intense black light, and he looked like a massive arrow that could pierce through anything. The image that had stood up once again raised its hand and vigorously slapped out, sending a massive wave of power towards Miel Lu. Bang! As expected, the god lord image was pierced by the black light, resulting in a massive explosion and a shockwave rippled out. Miel Lu's body quickly flew towards the mirror and disappeared within it. Everyone felt quite shocked. Two people with Emperor stars were quite terrifying. They had been able to defeat two god lords so easily. Now, everyone's gazes were on the strongest competitors for the position of King of Gods. Now it was time to see if they could defeat the god lords. Boom! 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 Seeing Miel Lu and Tian Yu enter the secret realm, everyone else did not want to fall behind, and they gave off massive auras as they rushed into the sky. God Kerr held a pitchfork and sent a massive wave of divine power into it, causing it to give off boundless black light and form a massive pitchfork image that shot forwards with terrifying power. Bang! An explosion sounded out as the pitchfork image pierced through a god lord image with immense power, resulting in a massive explosion. God Kerr flapped its wings and gave a domineering smile as it flew into the mirror. Shing! A massive sword hum sounded out as a wave of killing intent spread out like a wild gale. Sha Ming vigorously slashed out with his blood-red sword, causing a massive blood-red sword light to shoot out, giving off a terrifying killing intent. Bang! A God Lord image released a defensive barrier, wanting to block the terrifying sword light, but it was still destroyed by the blood-red sword light. Sha Ming's body turned into a blood-red ray of light and shot into the mirror. Following this, everyone else unleashed their own power and defeated the God Lord images before entering the mirror. Chapter 2071 by Shogun Hikari Kui, Lei Tianba, Devourer, Yuchan, Shun Xianhua, Sha Ming, God Ke, Mielu, and Tianyu. There were 10 people in total. Now, they had easily defeated the 10 god images and entered the mirror. However, there were still 14 images left, which stopped the countless people. If they could not defeat these 24 images, they would not be able to enter the secret realm. The people on the stage looked at each other, waiting to see who would challenge the remaining god images. Everyone had seen how powerful the god images were, and ordinary godly spirits would be heavily injured if they went up. Ordinary godly spirits did not dare to go up, and they could only hope that others would challenge them so that they could follow. Those 10 people were the most eye-catching and terrifying people. Some people felt that they were inferior to them, but some of the stronger people did not want to fall behind. Those 10 people quickly challenged the images. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a fiery red-haired woman became covered in flames, turning into a massive firebird. She gave off a searing power as she quickly flew towards one of the god's images. A god gave off a powerful aura as he stepped out and punched out with shocking power towards the woman. Bang! The firebird did not feel any fear and sped up as it flew towards the main god image. Following this, a massive explosion occurred, causing sparks to fly everywhere as an explosive power blasted the main god image apart. Everyone could not help but cheer. This was the first time that someone outside of the top 10 geniuses had successfully challenged a god image. This greatly encouraged them and made them believe that they had the power to deal with the god images. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out as a young man turned into a massive green ox and gave off a ferocious aura as he rushed over towards a god image, successfully destroying it. This made everyone even more motivated, and they gave off powerful auras as they rushed towards the images in the sky. Bang! 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 The outcome was not as good as expected. Massive sounds rang out as people were knocked to the ground. Large craters appeared in the ground as rocks flew everywhere. Now, the experts on the viewing platform had looks of disdain and disappointment on their faces when they saw the people who were sent flying one by one. These people were far too lacking compared to the top 10 geniuses, and they were not interested in them at all. It seemed that the focus would be on the top 10 geniuses this time, and the others would not have a chance of becoming the ruler of the gods. What was even more laughable was that whether or not these people would be able to enter was a problem. Something like this had happened in the past. The opening of the secret realm was beneficial to everyone, but in order to ensure that there were enough experts in the godly world, they had set it up like this. Otherwise, it would not be possible for each person to defeat a god image. Some powerful people could defeat multiple god images with no problems. Massive sounds rang out in the sky as terrifying shockwaves spread out. Some people succeeded in their challenges, while others failed. Now, even the godly spirits felt that they were on 2 levels lower than the top 10 geniuses. They had all entered the secret realm, and they were still here to challenge for the opportunity to enter. "Sir, what should we do now?" Zhou Yun asked in a soft voice beside Zhao Fu. She was completely confident that if Zhao Fu went up to challenge, he would be able to defeat the god image faster than anyone else. After all, he was the king of kings, and he received even more attention than the top 10 geniuses. Zhao Fu looked at the sky and said, "Wait." Now, Zhao Fu did not plan to act because there were still countless experts on the viewing platforms. Challenging the god image would attract too much attention, and Zhao Fu would not be so foolish as to reveal his identity. More than an hour passed, and there was only one god image left in the sky. However, There were hundreds of craters of various sizes on the stage, and there was a heavily injured person lying within each crater, all of them covered with blood. Now, there was only one god image left. As long as they could defeat this god image, everyone would be able to enter the secret realm. That person should go up and try. There's only one left. Those with strength don't hide anymore. If they don't defeat that god image, none of us will be able to enter the secret realm. That's right. That expert don't hide his strength anymore. I don't believe that no one could defeat the god image with so many people here. Look at how easily the other geniuses defeated the god image. AI, we can only blame ourselves for not being strong enough. If there were any geniuses who were that strong, they wouldn't have to beg others for help. That good person, do some good deeds. Just defeat the last person, and I'll definitely thank you. If you obtain anything good in the secret realm, I'll definitely repay you. Everyone has been in for so long. If you don't hurry up, it'll be too late. What are you afraid of? After all, we're the most outstanding people from the other factions. We can't compare to those peerless geniuses, but we should have our pride. If we don't try, we won't know. Boom! After yelling this, a big man wielded a golden axe and gave off a powerful aura as he leapt into the sky. Everyone felt their blood boil. That was right. They were geniuses from the various factions, and everyone looked up to them. Why did they act so lowly and not have any pride? Were they really afraid of those peerless geniuses? Were they really inferior to those peerless geniuses? If they thought like that, they would never be able to surpass those peerless geniuses in their entire lives, and they would never become peerless experts. After all, as peerless experts who look down on the heavens and earth, they would never think that they were inferior to others. Instead, they had to have the conviction to surpass everything. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions sounded out as people exploded out with powerful auras and challenged the final god image in the sky. The sound was shocking, and strong gales blew out. The god image in the sky looked at the people charging over, and a massive might exploded out. It was more than 100 times stronger than before, and even the air was unable to withstand it and continuously twisted. Boom! The god image stretched out a hand, and a massive wave of divine power spread out. That hand seemed to be able to control the heavens and earth, and it lightly pressed down. Bang! 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 Massive sounds rang out as the countless people who had charged into the sky were instantly blasted down from the platform and heavily smashed into the ground, creating large craters. Rocks flew everywhere, and shockwaves spread out. The people who had wanted to charge into the sky were so scared that they immediately stopped and looked at the god image in the sky in shock. How had this god image become so terrifying? This was because they were challenging the god image together, causing the god image's power to increase by 100 times and punish those who broke the rules. Chapter 2072. Each person could only challenge one master god image. Just now, with so many people rushing over, the master god image was seen as breaking the rules, which was why it had unleashed such terrifying power. Looking at the final master god image in the sky, which gave off an aura that could suppress the heavens and earth, everyone looked shocked. Now, even if a peerless genius rushed up, they might not be able to win. What should they do now? Everyone's hot-bloodedness was instantly doused with cold water, and they all calmed down. There was still a gap between them and those peerless geniuses. The big man who had led the charge towards the master god image was now lying in a large crater, moaning and covered with blood. His injuries were not light. In the end, the master god image had become so terrifying, and no one could defeat it. If that happened, no one would be able to enter the secret realm. However, something surprising happened. The master god image's power was quickly weakening, and it returned to its previous strength. If everyone went up, they would still have a trace of hope of winning. Boom! At that moment, a massive explosion sounded out as a beautiful and alluring woman in a red dress rushed into the sky with a massive aura. Everyone was stunned, unable to react. The beautiful woman in the red dress held a sword and vigorously swung it, causing a massive black sword light to fly out with destructive power. In an instant, it split the master god image in half, causing it to turn into countless motes of light and dissipate. She won. Everyone looked at the beautiful woman in the sky in shock. The surprise had come too quickly, and no one could react in time. Everyone immediately cheered, and countless people smiled happily. Now that the 24 images had been destroyed, they could now enter the secret realm. At the same time, countless people thanked and praised the woman in the red dress in the sky. It was all thanks to her, or else they would not have been able to enter the secret realm. They were also curious as to who this woman was. For her to be so powerful, her identity was definitely not simple. A few people hidden in the crowd, who had been about to deal with a master god image, looked quite surprised. They had never thought that this woman would be one step ahead of them. This woman was Jiu Yun. Now, Jiu Yun's entire body was emitting demonic qi, bringing with it a strong pressure. She was like a demon god. The power now was not hers, but the power given to her by Zhao Fu. Moreover, the one controlling her body was Zhao Fu. In front of so many experts, it was impossible for Zhao Fu to appear. He could only rely on Jiu Yun's body to defeat the Lord Shadow. Zhao Fu did not want to waste any more time. He had waited here for long enough. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out as a massive divine might spread out in the sky. The heavens and earth dimmed as clouds swirled, and ancient mirrors that were 1,000 meters wide appeared in the sky. The mirrors didn't just appear in the sky above the platform. There were more than 100 mirrors on the platform. In the many cities, countless commoners had gathered in the center of the city. They had been waiting for a long time, and some had even moved chairs and tables to the side. The scene was very lively. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion sounded out in the sky as countless rays of white light shined down. A divine mirror giving off a powerful divine might slowly descended from the sky. The commoners did not feel any fear, and they instead cheered. The appearance of the divine mirror meant that the competition had officially begun, and everyone would be able to personally see the geniuses' performances. After these mirrors appeared, they displayed the scenes within the secret realm. For example, Tian Yu casually waved his hand and blasted a massive beast into smithereens, and God Kerr caught a divine beast with a divinity and ate its divinity. However, even though the divine mirror could see what was happening, everyone immediately sensed that someone was looking at them. Tian Yu casually waved his hand, and a formless energy spread out, covering everything in the surroundings. The images in the mirror immediately disappeared, and everything became white. Miel Lu did the same, and a black light spread out from her body. The images in the mirror also disappeared, and everything became white. This caused the experts on the viewing platforms to feel quite displeased. They had come here to see the geniuses' performances in the secret realm, and now that they had been blocked, how were they supposed to see what was going to happen? The people on the viewing platforms did not pay any attention to these divine mirrors, and they flooded towards the mirror frame in front of them, disappearing into it. Zhao Fu controlled Jiu Yun's body to fly in, and he carefully walked towards the mirror frame. Now, Zhao Fu did not dare to be careless. Even though he felt quite excited and happy, as long as he entered the secret realm, even if his identity was exposed, those experts would not be able to do anything to him. However, if he was discovered now, it would be a tragedy, and everything he had done before would have been for nothing. His life might even be in danger, so he had to be even more careful at this critical moment. Zhao Fu slowly walked along with the crowd. Everything seemed quite ordinary, and there was nothing special about it. Suddenly, Zhao Fu felt a gaze on him. This gaze did not come from the viewing platforms, but from the people entering the mirror frame. Sensing this gaze, Zhao Fu did not stop. It was as if he had not noticed anything and continued to walk towards the mirror frame. At that moment, Zhao Fu was only 10 or so meters away from the mirror frame. As long as he walked in, he would not have to worry about anything. There was no need to stop because of this gaze, nor did he want anything to happen. As for that gaze, it retracted and didn't do anything. In the end, Zhao Fu successfully entered the mirror frame. A wave of energy wrapped around Zhao Fu and sent him flying to the side. Everything happened in an instant, and there was no time to react. After a while, Zhao Fu's body appeared on a short hill. The verdant grass around him gave off a faint divine light, and there was a fragrance. The grass had been nourished by boundless divine power, and it had become quite extraordinary. It contained a unique divine power and could be used as a very low-grade spirit herb. Ordinary grass could not compare to it. The sun was bright, and there were white clouds drifting in the wind in the dark blue sky. There was also a massive magic formation. This magic formation was made up of 24 circles, and each circle gave off a different colored light. It was filled with a profound and holy aura. The magic formation did not give off any power, but it gave off an oppressive feeling as it slowly spun in the sky. Everything in the surroundings, the mountains, the ground, the trees, the flowers, and the grasses, gave off faint different-colored divine lights, making it feel very dreamy. Zhao Fu retracted his gaze. After entering the secret realm, everyone was randomly teleported to a random location, not a group of people. Zhao Fu had wanted to see the owner of that gaze, but he could not do so now. Following this, Zhao Fu sensed where Zhu Yun was and found that she was not very far away, so he flew over and found her. Chapter 2073. Zhao Fu did not like people looking at him. It felt quite strange and uncomfortable, so he blocked the god mirror's image. Seeing Zhao Fu land in front of her, Zhu Yun gave a trace of a smile and leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace as she smiled and asked, "Sir, what should we do now?" Zhao Fu thought about it and said, "Let's see if there are any good things around, and then look for the time god. We can also look for the 24 core gods' legacies. And finally, we can compete with the other geniuses." After coming to the secret realm, Zhao Fu had a clear goal. First, there were all sorts of treasures in the secret realm, so he definitely could not miss out on them. Next was the time god. Last time, the time god had escaped, so he definitely could not let the time god escape this time. There were definitely time gods in the secret realm, and if he could not catch them now, it would be very difficult to catch them after they left the secret realm. Who knew where they would go and where they would appear? They were incredibly rare. If he could not catch them, Qin's plan to obtain the Philosopher's Stone would fail. As for the Pantheon Fire and awakening the God Race's Emperor's Star, he had to obtain the Pantheon Ruler, so he had to compete with the other geniuses. In this mystic realm, no matter what they killed or obtained, they would be able to obtain points. Those who were defeated would lose all of their points and have two choices. The first was that if he encountered great danger, he could directly teleport out. The second was that he could stay in the secret realm for a maximum of 7 days. After 7 days, even if he did not want to leave, he would be forcefully teleported out. Of course, there were all sorts of treasures in the secret realm that could extend the time he could stay in there. Moreover, he could not challenge anyone. There was a circular mark on Zhao Fu's arm. This mark was called the Pantheon Mark, and it was split into different levels. White was level 1, blue was level 2, silver was level 3, gold was level 4, purple was level 5, 3 colors were level 6, 5 colors were level 7, 7 colors were level 8, and 9 colors were level 9. People of the same level could only challenge people of the same level. In other words, since Zhao Fu had a white Pantheon Mark, he could only challenge people with a challenge Pantheon Mark and could not challenge people with a blue Pantheon Mark. The Pantheon Seal could be leveled up by killing creatures and obtaining various items. It could also be leveled up by defeating others. There was another rule. Only those who possessed the 9-colored Pantheon Seal could participate in the final competition. The final victor would become the Master of Pantheon. If one did not possess the 9-colored Pantheon Seal, they would not be able to participate in the final competition. Hence, they would not be able to become the Master of Pantheon. This time, Zhao Fu was unable to directly challenge the other geniuses. He still needed to raise the level of his mark. Now, he could also bring up a leaderboard. Tian Yu and the others had entered the mystic realm a long time ago, so they had already accumulated a lot of points. First place, Tianyu, won 2 million points, silver mark. Second place, Mielu, won 15 million points, silver mark. Third place, God Kerr, 800,000 points, blue mark. Fourth place, Sha Ming, 780,000 points, blue mark. Fifth place, Shun Xianhua, 700,000 points, blue mark. Sixth place, Yu Chan, 670,000 points, blue mark. Rank 7, Devourer, 640,000 points, blue mark. Rank 8 by Shogun, 600,000 points, blue mark. Rank 9, Lei Tianba, 590,000 points, blue mark. Rank 10, Hikari Kimui, 550,000 points, blue mark. After looking at the leaderboards, Zhao Fu was not surprised that someone with 2 Emperor stars had taken first and second place. Zhao Fu had never heard of anyone else, so he did not pay too much attention. However, Zhao Fu could not help but feel shocked that God Kerr had taken third place. Now that he had taken third place, that meant that he was now ranked third out of the top 10 geniuses. If it wasn't for Mielu, he would have been ranked second. Just imagine how monstrous the second-ranked person in the godly realm would be. After all these years, Zhao Fu had underestimated God Kerr. He had actually grown into such a terrifying person, and if he was allowed to continue growing, he would definitely become one of Zhao Fu's greatest enemies. Zhao Fu could not allow him to continue growing, and he had to get rid of him in the secret realm. Even though he was now the emperor of a demon god emperor, killing him would incur the wrath of a demon god emperor, who would do anything to take revenge. The demon god emperor was one of the top 3 factions in the godly realm, and offending such a monstrous faction would be incredibly terrifying. During the battle at Outlander 10 College, Zhao Fu had been worried about the factions behind those geniuses, so he had not acted. This was mainly to prevent terrifying factions from madly chasing after him. However, this time, Zhao Fu had no choice but to kill God Kerr. He was simply too great of a threat, and if he was allowed to continue growing, who knew how monstrous he would become in the future? If he did not kill him now, he would suffer a backlash in the future, and now, Zhao Fu felt immense pressure. Even if he offended a demon god emperor, Zhao Fu had to do it. Following this, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun started to explore the surroundings. There were many good things here, and there were spirit fruits and spirit treasures everywhere. After walking for a while, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun found a 5,000-year-old fruit tree in a valley. It was called the White Snow Fruit Tree, and it grew white snow fruits. These white snow fruits were like cotton and had a crisp taste, and they contained a lot of spirit energy. Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun found this white snow fruit tree, which grew at the center of a pile of rocks. It looked like a pine tree, and its thick white roots covered the rocks. Its trunk was 50 or so meters wide and hundreds of meters tall. Its crown was incredibly large, and its branches were all snow white. There were many white snow fruits on it, and they were as big as fists and shaped like cotton. Because this fruit tree was 5,000 years old, each one was dozens of times more valuable than ordinary white snow fruits, and they contained powerful spirit energy. Zhao Fu did not let them go. He waved his hand, and a massive force spread out, grabbing the white snow fruits one by one. He pulled them off and put them in his storage ring. Originally, Zhao Fu had wanted to dig up this tree as well, as it was a spirit fruit tree with a lifespan of 5,000 years. It was very rare and valuable. However, he could not do so. Just as Zhao Fu was about to dig up the fruit tree, he realized that there was a force protecting the fruit tree. This force came from the mystic realm itself. If he forcefully dug up the fruit tree, he would immediately die. This meant that he was only allowed to pluck the spirit fruits and not dig up the tree. After a period of time, many white snow fruits would grow here again. Although he could destroy the fruit tree and no one would be able to obtain the fruit in the future, Zhao Fu did not choose to do so, as Zhao Fu was not that bad. In the future, whoever was fated would come here and obtain the white snow fruits. Zhao Fu felt that it was not bad to continue like this. Chapter 2074. Afterwards, After Zhao Fu obtained a few good items, he met a few people on a grassy field. There were 3 men and 2 women. Seeing that Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun were alone, they did not hold back and surrounded Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun. At that moment, a fierce-looking young man laughed and said loudly, "Now, the 2 of you better admit defeat and hand over what you've obtained." Jiu Yun could not help but lightly laugh as she looked at these people who were seeking death. Hearing her laugh, the fierce-looking young man felt that he had been looked down upon. He did not say anything and angrily shouted, "Kill them!" The others exploded out with their power and prepared to attack Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun. Boom! Jiu Yun directly exploded out with a powerful aura, forming a powerful shockwave that spread out in all directions. Bang! 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 The 5 people surrounding Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun were hit by a powerful force and flew back 10 or so meters. A trace of blood flowed out of the corners of their mouths, and they looked incredibly shocked. They had never thought that Jiu Yun would be so powerful. Suddenly, an ordinary-looking woman looked at Jiu Yun and recalled that Jiu Yun seemed to be the last person to defeat the Lord Shadow. She was so frightened that she knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. "My lord, I was blind and offended you. Please let me off this time." Because there were many people on the platform, they had not been in front and had only seen Jiu Yun from afar, so they did not know what she looked like. When the others saw the ordinary-looking woman kneeling on the ground, they felt quite confused. After finding out who Jiu Yun was, they were so scared that they knelt on the ground and begged, "My lord, we were wrong. Please don't kill us." Now, they understood that they had been seeking death. The woman in front of them had defeated a core god image, which was enough to prove how terrifying her power was. Jiu Yun smiled and hugged Zhao Fu as she asked, "My lord, how do you want to deal with them?" Hearing this, the people kneeling on the ground felt quite shocked. That woman was so terrifying, yet she was the subordinate of that person next to her. Just how powerful was that cloaked person? The fierce-looking youth was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. He hurriedly said to Zhao Fu, "Sir, please give us a chance. There won't be a next time." Zhao Fu glanced at the 5 of them and said calmly, "Hand over your divine powers and scram." The others looked incredibly delighted. Zhao Fu did not want their items, nor did he want them to concede to gain points. He only wanted their divine power, which was not harmful to them at all. As such, they smiled and hurriedly agreed. As for Zhao Fu, their strength was too weak. Zhao Fu did not care about the things they had on them, and the points they had were also very few. According to the original plan, Zhao Fu didn't want to waste his energy to defeat these weaklings. Instead, he wanted to choose some slightly stronger people. They would have a lot of points on them, so Zhao Fu could directly choose to attack them. Their points were naturally obtained by defeating people who were weaker than them, so Zhao Fu had saved himself a bit. Now that the secret realm was filled with godly spirits, this satisfied Zhao Fu's needs. Zhao Fu's 10,000 godly power still needed to fuse with many godly spirits' powers in order to become more powerful. The few people quickly condensed their divine power orbs and raised their hands, causing them to automatically fly in front of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu waved his hand and put them into his spatial ring. At that moment, the fierce-looking man smiled and said, "My lord, we also received news that a core god's legacy land has appeared. We've also received news that a chief god's land of inheritance has appeared up ahead. Many people are rushing over now. We originally wanted to go as well, but we met the 2 sirs." Zhao Fu felt quite startled and gave a trace of smile as he asked, "Where is it?" There were 24 Lord God's legacy lands in the secret realm, and they were not fixed in one place. Instead, they appeared randomly, and each time they appeared in a different place. What was even more exciting was that the Lord God's legacy lands could not only give legacy power to one person, but also to many people. In other words, the chances of obtaining legacy power were much higher. After the Lord God's legacy lands were given legacy power, they would disappear for a period of time. However, after a period of time, they would appear again. They did not disappear after giving legacy power, but continuously giving legacy power. It had to be said that the secret realm had cultivated a large number of experts for the god realm. The 24 Lord Gods and that Lord God were very far-sighted, leaving such a secret realm to help the god realm. However, it was also possible that they had done everything possible to continue to nurture countless experts, wanting to start a second war against the god realm. This was because they had lost the first war to a large extent. The god realm was still giving off vast divine might, threatening the entire god realm. After so many years, the god realm had indeed developed very well and was very prosperous. However, it was still very difficult to defeat the Pantheon Mirror. Moreover, no one in the god realm wanted to start a second war against the god realm, so they were quite satisfied with their current lives. The Lord God's legacy lands were also one of Zhao Fu's goals, so Zhao Fu would definitely bring people there. When the fierce-looking young man saw that Zhao Fu was going back, he was also delighted. Zhao Fu's strength was so terrifying, and if he could curry favor with him, he would be able to do whatever he wanted in the secret realm. The benefits were unimaginable. The fierce-looking young man immediately smiled as he said, "Sir, since you're going, why don't we take you there?" Zhao Fu thought about it and nodded in agreement. Following this, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun followed the 5 people and quickly flew towards the horizon before disappearing. 3 hours later, the group arrived at a mountain peak. This peak was not very tall, and there was nothing special about it. However, there was a huge ball floating at the top. It was 1,000 meters wide and was green in color. It emitted intense green light and a powerful wind. The surroundings were already filled with people. Pairs of eyes stared at the green ball, but no one else did anything. This was because the Lord God's legacy lands had not truly opened yet. If they went forward now, not only would they not be able to enter the legacy lands, but their lives might also be in danger. As Zhao Fu's group arrived, they immediately attracted many people's attention. However, they were not looking at Zhao Fu, but at Jiu Yun, who was beside Zhao Fu. When Jiu Yun had defeated the last Lord God's shadow in one move, many people had remembered Jiu Yun's appearance, which was why they had attracted so many people's attention. At the same time, they felt a wave of pressure. With such a powerful person coming to them, their chances of obtaining the Lord God's legacy would definitely be much lower. As for the people around Jiu Yun, including Zhao Fu, no one cared about them. They felt that they were just a group of followers. After Zhao Fu's group arrived, they waited at the side and did nothing else. Chapter 2075. More and more people gather here, as this was the legacy land of the ancient core god. Even though it was not the only legacy power, it was still of great help to them and could allow them to become peerless experts. After hearing this, countless people would definitely hurry over. There was not a single person who did not want to become an expert. Boom! An explosion sounded out as the massive azure orb gave off a piercing azure light, exploding out with an intense gale that spread out in all directions. Rocks were blown away, and trees were uprooted, and everyone put up defensive barriers to defend. However, even though some people put up defensive barriers to defend, they were still unable to defend against the berserk wind and were blown away. However, within this berserk wind, those with wind attribute godly spirits had a great advantage. Their bodies had a certain resistance to the wind, and they could create wind to minimize the effects on themselves. By now, the core god's legacy land had already been opened, and they only needed to enter the orb to enter. Some wind gods braved the massive gale and flew towards the orb, but they were very slow as the berserk wind was incredibly strong. Some of the stronger people, even though they were not wind attribute, relied on their powerful strength to block the berserk wind and fly towards the azure orb. They were also very slow. Zhao Fu stood where he was and did not move as he looked at the azure orb. This azure orb had such massive wind power. It most likely belonged to the wind core god's legacy land, and wind attribute godly power had a great advantage. After thinking for a while, a wind attribute power flowed out from Zhao Fu's body, and waves of black wind spread out from his body. Jiu Yun, the fierce-looking man, and the others looked quite confused. They had not sensed that Zhao Fu was a wind god, but now the aura and power that Zhao Fu gave off were like that of a wind god. They did not know that Zhao Fu had temporarily turned 10,000 godly power into wind attribute. 10,000 godly power was a type of power formed from many types of godly power, and Zhao Fu could temporarily change one of the types of godly power that had been fused. Zhao Fu looked at Jiu Yun and asked, "Do you want to go in?" Jiu Yun smiled and nodded. Yes. The ferocious-looking man and the others understood that Zhao Fu would be able to easily enter, and they asked with anticipation, "Can that lord take us in as well? We definitely won't give you any trouble." Boom! Zhao Fu looked at them and did not reply, but a massive black wind covered everyone and shot towards the green orb like a black ray of light. Everyone was shocked. They didn't expect that someone would enter so quickly. Moreover, even though the woman in the red dress was so powerful, it seemed like that man was her master. It was as if she was his woman. What status did he have for such a powerful woman in the red dress to listen to him? Some people in the audience started to pay attention to Zhao Fu. Although Zhao Fu could block his own image, he could not block the image of others. Therefore, everyone could still see Zhao Fu. Now that the inheritance ground of the Wind Master God had appeared, it naturally attracted the attention of the masses. They were naturally curious about Zhao Fu, the first person to enter the inheritance ground of the Wind Master God. Not only that, the woman beside him was the one who had defeated the final Master God's illusory figure. After Zhao Fu and the others entered the orb, they arrived at another space. The place where Zhao Fu had appeared was beneath a mountain. The sky was green, and there were lush greenery everywhere. Birds flew and butterflies danced. They were all of the wind element and were also green in color. There was a gigantic stone statue on the mountain. The stone statue was 10,000 meters tall and was carved in the form of a young man. He was handsome and wore a smile. He wore a long robe and held a fan in his hand. He gave off an extremely powerful wind element aura and a powerful might. Zhao Fu said, "You guys go around and see if there are any fortuitous encounters. I'm going to obtain the ancient Master God's legacy power." The ferocious-looking man and the others did not have any intentions towards the Master God's legacy power. With their strength, they did not even have the ability to enter this place, so there was no way they could obtain the legacy power. Moreover, the Wind Master God's legacy land was extremely big, and there were treasures of the wind element everywhere. Their goal was to obtain these items, and this was a great opportunity for them. As such, the ferocious-looking man and the others said respectfully and gratefully, "Thank you, sir, for bringing us in. We will definitely remember the help you have given us, sir." Zhao Fu did not care about these people, as he turned into a black gust of wind and flew towards the stone statue. Jillian smiled and flew up into the sky to follow Zhao Fu. To her, those treasures were not as interesting as seeing how Zhao Fu was going to obtain the Master God's legacy power. The ferocious-looking man and the others spread out in all directions excitedly to search for other treasures. Zhao Fu's speed was extremely fast, and he was about to reach the gigantic stone statue. This was the stone statue of the Wind Master God back then. If he wanted to obtain the Master God's legacy power, he had to come here. Boom! As Zhao Fu flew closer, the gigantic stone statue gave off a tremendous aura. Its body shone with an endless green light, causing the sky to change and the clouds to rumble. The stone statue, which had seemed like a dead object, seemed to have come to life. It lowered its head slightly, and its eyes landed on Zhao Fu's body. Immediately, Zhao Fu felt a formidable pressure as though his body was being pulled into darkness. He could not help but feel a sense of fear in his heart. As an ancient existence, the Wind Master God was extremely terrifying. His strength might even be stronger than ordinary immortals. However, Zhao Fu suppressed that sense of fear and exuded an even stronger black gust of wind from his body as he flew towards the stone statue. If he were to be afraid right now, there was no way he could obtain the Master God's legacy power. Initially, Jiuyun, who had wanted to follow along, felt this tremendous aura. Her face turned grim as she could not help but stop. Boom! A loud explosion rang out as the gigantic stone statue gave off a green glow that turned into countless green wind blades that filled the entire sky. With a formidable power, all of them bolted out toward Zhao Fu, as though they were going to slice through everything. Zhao Fu's heart skipped a beat as he burst forth with all of his strength. A tremendous black gust of wind burst forth from Zhao Fu's body as Zhao Fu's clothes fluttered rapidly, giving off clattering sounds. The gigantic black gust of wind began to spin, turning into a gigantic black tornado as a destructive power spread out. Bang! 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 A series of loud booms rang out as the green wind blades slashed against the black tornado. The green wind blades were minced apart, turning into countless green auras that were sucked into the black tornado, giving off a series of loud booms. Boom! The stone statue stretched out a hand toward Zhao Fu as a gigantic green tornado surged out from its palm and shot out towards Zhao Fu ferociously. It pierced through the gigantic black tornado and sent Zhao Fu flying, causing the tornado to dissipate. Chapter 2076. Zhao Fu's body stopped, and a trace of blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. His expression became serious, but Zhao Fu did not use any other power. If one wanted to obtain the core god's legacy power, they had to use godly spirit power. If they used the power of other races, they would not be able to obtain the 24 core gods' legacy power. This was why the 24 core gods rejected other races. For example, when entering the secret realm, one had to have a godhood. Those without a godhood did not even have the right to enter the secret realm. If Zhao Fu used Wind God's power now, it would be easier for him to obtain the stone statue's recognition and obtain the core god's legacy power. Boom! Zhao Fu unleashed all of the godhood's power, and countless rays of black light shot out in all directions, covering the heavens and earth. The air suddenly sank, and in that moment, the world seemed to turn black. Seeing this scene, Jiuyun, the fierce-looking man, and the others felt incredibly shocked. This was the first time they had personally seen Zhao Fu unleash such terrifying power. Zhao Fu grabbed out with his hand, and countless traces of black wind gathered in his palm, continuously condensing and compressing, forming a long spear made of wind, giving off a massive sharp aura. The stone statue once again raised its hand toward Zhao Fu. Boom! A massive azure whirlwind shot out from the stone statue's palm, bringing with it terrifying wind power. It shot toward Zhao Fu incredibly quickly, bringing with it a powerful gust of wind. Zhao Fu did not feel any fear at all, and he held the 3-meter-long wind spear as he rushed towards the massive azure whirlwind. Just as the massive azure whirlwind was about to hit Zhao Fu stabbed out with his black wind spear. Boom! The wind spear in Zhao Fu's hand turned into a terrifying black gale, and it gave off a power that seemed to be able to pierce through everything as it stabbed forwards. As it slashed out, it pierced through the massive azure tornado, causing it to dissipate. Zhao Fu took this opportunity to quickly fly forwards, arriving in front of the massive stone statue. In that instant, a massive azure formation appeared beneath the stone statue's feet, giving off a massive aura. Boom! Zhao Fu, who was flying in the sky, felt an unimaginable force pressing him into the spirit formation on the ground. The ground cracked, and Zhao Fu coughed up a mouthful of blood. The massive power was still weighing down on his body, and Zhao Fu's body released a massive black storm to resist that massive power as he stood up from the ground. This was a sovereign formation and also the final test. As long as he passed this test, Zhao Fu would be able to acquire Sovereign's Might. In actuality, if he could use other powers, Zhao Fu would have an easier time, such as the 6 Paths Demon Image's power, Celestial Mode's power, Divine Bloodline's power, Evil Spirit Abyss Flower's power, etc. It was a pity that he could only use the power of his godhood and participate in the trial as a member of the god race. Otherwise, he would not have been able to obtain the power of the master god's inheritance. After resisting the massive pressure and standing up, Zhao Fu's body continuously gave off black storms as he continued onwards. As Zhao Fu walked forwards, the massive might became stronger and stronger, and the black storms that Zhao Fu gave off became more and more powerful, blowing away some rocks and weeds. Half an hour passed. Zhao Fu finally came in front of the stone statue, and the massive pressure disappeared. The black storms that Zhao Fu gave off stopped, and in that instant, countless traces of azure wind flooded into Zhao Fu's body. The massive stone statue looked down at Zhao Fu, and its forehead gave off boundless azure light as a massive wave of ancient wind god power spread out. Boom! A ray of azure light shot out from the stone statue's forehead, giving off a massive aura as it shot into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu's body trembled as he sensed that ancient wind god power, and he smiled. This was the power that Zhao Fu wanted. Zhao Fu quickly absorbed the massive wave of ancient wind god power and fused it into his black godhood, which gave off a black wind within Zhao Fu's mind. The azure light from the stone statue's forehead landed on Zhao Fu's body and continuously absorbed the ancient wind god power. After a while, the light gradually weakened. Zhao Fu was not satisfied with just this bit of ancient wind god power. He looked up at the stone statue and shot out a ray of black light. Boom! A massive black aura exploded out as an otherworldly power that reigned above that of an emperor spread out. At that moment, Zhao Fu started to use his divine bloodline's power. The black aura that exploded out turned into 9 savage black dragons that circled around Zhao Fu's body, and a supreme aura spread out. The people on the viewing platforms looked at Zhao Fu suspiciously and started to wonder what Zhao Fu's identity was. The 9 black dragons all gave off a trace of fate, causing them to be filled with a trace of spirituality. This was something that only a sovereign's fate could have. Was this cloaked man in front of him the emperor of a heaven and earth? What surprised them even more was that the 9 black dragons around Zhao Fu roared at the massive stone statue. Boom! Zhao Fu's body gave off an even more intense black light as he turned into a ray of black light and gave off a terrifying aura as he shot towards the stone statue's forehead. Is this person crazy? He dares to forcefully absorb an ancient Lord God's power? Everyone looked at this scene in shock. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would dare to do such a thing. Indeed, Zhao Fu was forcefully absorbing the stone statue's ancient Lord legacy power. Even though the ancient wind god's legacy power that the stone statue had just given him was of great help to ordinary godly spirits, it was not enough for Zhao Fu. Boom! After the black ray of light hit the stone statue's forehead, Zhao Fu immediately started to absorb the ancient wind god's power. A massive wave of ancient wind god's power flowed into Zhao Fu's body, and a massive wind uncontrollably exploded out from Zhao Fu's body. The stone statue looked at Zhao Fu, and its gaze seemed to be able to see through Zhao Fu's body. Boom! The stone statue's forehead gave off an even more intense azure light, and an even larger azure ray of light containing immense power shot toward Zhao Fu. Even more ancient wind god's power flowed into Zhao Fu's body. This caused Zhao Fu's body to give off a piercing azure light, and the 9 black dragons all turned azure and gave off a wind aura. Everyone looked quite confused. He had succeeded just like that? Why did the stone statue not react at all and seem to be allowing him to absorb it? What was going on? Zhao Fu was also quite surprised. He had never thought that something like this would happen. Even if he had not forcefully absorbed the ancient wind god's power, the stone statue would have given him even more ancient wind god's power. As the massive ancient wind god's power flowed into him, Zhao Fu felt that his entire body was becoming wind attributed. Chapter 2077. After a while, the ancient wind god's power continuously flowed into Zhao Fu's body, and the beam of light gradually weakened. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a berserk azure gale exploded out from Zhao Fu's body, blowing out ferociously. Zhao Fu's skin, hair, and eyes all contained a trace of azure light, and his body gave off azure light, making him look like an ancient wind god. Zhao Fu was delighted as he sensed the ancient wind god's power. This power was incredibly powerful, and it was definitely a top-tier wind attribute power. Now, Zhao Fu could use all sorts of wind attribute attacks and defenses, and it was as if he had grasped the source of wind. He was the ruler of the wind domain. Moreover, after fusing with this powerful ancient wind god's power, the 10,000 gods' power had risen by quite a few stages, and it was equivalent to fusing with thousands of ordinary godly's power. However, this caused the 10,000 gods' power to lean towards the wind attribute, as it took up too much of it. Even though the quality of power was important, quantity was also very important. After shooting out the beam of light, the stone statue's body gradually disappeared, and an orb giving off intense azure light within the secret realm turned into an azure ray of light and shot into the sky. Bang! A massive sound rang out as the azure orb exploded, and an azure shockwave spread out with unstoppable force, bringing with it a powerful gale. In the sky, there was a massive magic formation with 24 circles, and one of them gave off an azure light, making it seem as if the circle was filled with azure light. Seeing this scene, countless people felt quite startled. The reason for this was because a core god's legacy land had bestowed all of its legacy power. Under ordinary circumstances, the ancient wind god's legacy power would be split into 10 portions and given to 10 people. Of course, according to the trials of the legacy land, the power of the 10 portions would vary. The most outstanding people would receive the most powerful wind god's power, while the most ordinary people would receive the weakest wind god's power. This meant that all 10 of them had obtained the primordial wind god's power. In the distance, Tianyu and the other terrifying prodigies were rather surprised when they saw the green light in the huge formation in the sky. How did the 10 of them obtain Overgod's power so quickly? The tests of the Overgods were no ordinary tests. Not only did they require great power, but they also required great talent or unwavering willpower. It was impossible for ordinary deities to obtain this sovereign's might. Only those with outstanding talent and great willpower could obtain it. It hadn't even been too long since the sovereign's legacy lands had opened, but 10 people had suddenly acquired sovereign's might. No one had expected this to happen so quickly. However, they did not know the truth. The people who were guarding outside the sphere looked at the sky in astonishment. They hadn't even entered yet. So how did everything end? He didn't give them a chance at all. There were also Zhao Fu and the other 2. Together with the fiendish man and the other 5, there were a total of 7 people. That meant there weren't 10 people left. What was going on? The many powerhouses on the viewing platform were equally shocked. They could see the legacy lands, so they naturally understood what was going on. It wasn't that the others had obtained any inheritance power, but that the wind god's inheritance power had been completely absorbed by one person. Although this kind of thing did happen, it was very rare. Usually, the stone statues would only give all of their wind god's power to someone else because they thought that they had unparalleled potential. When 10 people's ancient wind god power fused into one person's body, that person would naturally obtain the most powerful wind god's power, far stronger than the other wind gods. Moreover, this was the inheritance power. It would grow stronger as the person grew, and they might even grasp some of the Overgod's abilities. Who was that person now? Everyone started to suspect Zhao Fu's identity after receiving such attention from the stone statues. Zhao Fu smiled as he retracted the wind god's power. His body also returned to normal. Now, Zhao Fu and the others were still in the legacy lands. They still had 3 hours to leave this place. Once the time was up, they would be forcefully sent out. Next, they would naturally search for all sorts of treasures. Jillian looked at Zhao Fu with admiration and joy. The more she understood Zhao Fu, the more she understood how terrifying Zhao Fu was. She liked him more and more. 3 hours later, after Zhao Fu collected many wind attribute treasures, everyone was forcefully teleported out of the legacy lands. After Zhao Fu was forcefully teleported out, he wasn't at the same place as before. Instead, he was teleported to another place. When they were teleported just now, Zhao Fu and Jiu Yun were together, so they were teleported to the same place. As for the fiendish man and the others, because they were searching for treasures separately, they didn't know where they were teleported to. Zhao Fu found a flat place to sit down and take inventory of his gains. There were countless wind attribute spirit fruits and spirit herbs, as well as all sorts of materials and unique wind attribute treasures. After seeing all of this, Zhao Fu was very happy. Jillian also leaned against Zhao Fu and hugged Zhao Fu with both hands, smiling. She had gained a lot this time. At that moment, Jiu Yun asked with a smile, "Lord, what should we do next?" Zhao Fu smiled as he replied, "After I recover my strength, we'll go find the legacy lands of the overgods. There will be many deities gathered there, and there might even be worldly gods. I also need some ordinary deity's power to neutralize the power of 10,000 gods." If he fused all 24 gods' powers, Zhao Fu's 10,000 gods' power would reach an extreme. It would definitely become the most terrifying power in Zhao Fu's hands, and it would be unimaginable just how terrifying it would be. As such, he needed the power of many other deities to neutralize it. Zhao Fu's power was 10,000 gods' power, and he could not just represent one or a few types of power, but the power of countless deities. If he could truly fuse those powers together, it would be the time when Zhao Fu awakened the God Race's Emperor Star. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu couldn't help but feel excited. After recovering the power that he had used up in the battle, Zhao Fu quickly fused with the divine power orbs that the fiendish man and the others had given him. Because Zhao Fu had obtained the Overgod's legacy power, he had obtained many points, and the Pantheon seal on the back of his hand was blue. Following this, Zhao Fu brought Jiu Yun and continued to fly in search of the Overgod's legacy land. Within a grassy area, the various deities looked at the center, looking nervous and expectant. At the center, there was a 10-meter-tall tree that looked like a poplar. Its branches and leaves were silver, and there was a dark, square-shaped fruit at the top of the tree. There was a picture of a palace on each side of the fruit. This fruit was called the God Emperor fruit. The God Emperor fruit was a fruit from a God Emperor tree, and it contained the God Emperor's power. Anyone who ate the God Emperor fruit would obtain the God Emperor's power. To ordinary deities, this was an incredibly precious item. Chapter 2078. Moreover, the God Emperor tree would only bear one God Emperor fruit each time, making it even rarer and making everyone want it even more. Now, the God Emperor tree was protected by a restriction. This was the same as before. Spirit trees that had lived for many years would be protected by the secret realm for the sake of the secret realm's continued development. Otherwise, after taking the fruits, most people would definitely dig up the tree and bring it back. After all, they would be able to continuously plant and harvest fruits, while leaving the tree here would be for others. The God Emperor fruit had not ripened yet, but it was very close, so the godly spirits could only wait here. Suddenly, the God Emperor fruit at the top of the tree gave off a silver light, and the 4 paintings hung in the air. Heaven and earth power continuously gathered, and the restriction around the God Emperor tree became smaller and smaller. This meant that the God Emperor fruit was about to ripen. Everyone gave a trace of smile, and their eyes were filled with anticipation. At the same time, they warily looked around. There are now 50 or so godly spirits present, but there was only one person who had obtained the God Emperor fruit. There would definitely be an intense fight over it. By now, the 4 paintings in the air returned to the God Emperor fruit, and the restriction around the God Emperor tree was about to disappear. Boom! A massive sound rang out as the restriction around the God Emperor tree disappeared, and the God Emperor fruit gave off an even more intense light. illuminating the entire sky. A massive god emperor's might spread out, causing the surrounding space to sink. At that moment, the godly spirits guarding the surroundings gave off powerful auras as they quickly rushed forwards. There was only one god emperor fruit, and only one person had obtained it. Given how precious the god emperor fruit was, no one wanted to give it up. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a violet ray of light flew out and a massive aura spread out. A figure appeared next to the god emperor tree. It was an arrogant-looking young man dressed in violet robes. Everyone felt quite startled. The god emperor fruit was going to be obtained by that young man. Everyone wanted to explode out with even more power and rush over to snatch it. However, sensing the violet-clothed young man's aura, they immediately hesitated. The violet-clothed young man's power was incredibly terrifying, and even if they rushed up, they would not be a match for him. Some people stopped with ugly expressions, but others were not willing to give up and wanted to go over to snatch it. They felt that there was nothing to be afraid of with so many people around, and they continued to try to snatch it. The violet-clothed young man looked quite arrogant as a noble violet aura appeared around him. He took out a saber and sent large amounts of power into it before vigorously swinging it. Clang! A massive violet saber light, bringing with it massive saber chi and terrifying power, flew out incredibly quickly. The 10 or so godly spirits rushing over felt quite startled and felt an intense sense of danger. They hurriedly unleashed their defenses, but they were still sent flying by the saber, and a trace of blood leaked out of their lips. The other gods that were charging over immediately stopped when they saw this. Their expressions were quite grim. The purple-robed youth said in disdain, "How dare a bunch of you snatch the god emperor fruit from me? You're overestimating yourselves." Sensing the aura coming from his body, some people recognized him and said, "He's from Emperor God." The god emperor's faction was also very powerful in the god realm. Although this purple-robed young man was not the god emperor's godson, he should still be a very respectable person. Now that the purple-robed young man was so powerful and had such an esteemed status, everyone was hesitant as to whether or not they should continue fighting for it. At this time, attracted by the light emitted by the ripening god emperor fruit, more deities quickly gathered here. The dozens of godly spirits immediately became over 100, and this number was still increasing. As such, the purple-robed young man did not waste any time. If there were too many godly spirits, he would not be able to stop them all by himself. Just as the purple-robed young man stretched out his hand and was about to pluck the god emperor fruit, swish! A white ray of light containing immense power and extremely fast speed streaked through the air, shooting towards the purple-clothed young man. The purple-robed young man's expression fell, and he immediately unleashed a defensive barrier to block that ray of light. He turned and saw a fair-skinned man and a sweet-looking young woman appear. Seeing the god emperor fruit, the young woman happily said, "Big brother, help me obtain that god emperor fruit. You have to help me get that god emperor fruit. With that god emperor fruit, my strength will improve greatly." The fair-skinned young man lightly laughed and said, "No problem," before looking at the purple-robed young man. Some of the people in the surroundings recognized the fair-skinned young man because he was quite famous in the god realm. He was a purification god called Clean Water, and he came from a powerful faction in the god realm. Now that another terrifying person had appeared, everyone's expressions became even more unsightly. Their chances of obtaining the god emperor fruit once again decreased. However, now that there were people suppressing the purple-robed young man, they still had a slight chance of obtaining the god emperor fruit. With how precious the god emperor fruit was, they would not give up so easily. Clean Water looked at the purple-robed young man and gave a trace of a confident smile as he said, "Friend, did you not hear what my little sister said? Please move aside." The purple-robed young man's expression changed, and he stretched out his hand towards the god emperor fruit. After obtaining the god emperor fruit, he would act against Clean Water. Seeing him act, Clean Water's palm gave off an intense white light, and he grabbed out with his hand. A white laser containing immense power shot out and sent the purple-robed young man flying dozens of meters. The purple-robed young man looked furious as he roared, "You're seeking death." Boom! The purple-robed young man exploded out with a powerful aura and gripped his saber as he ferociously rushed at Cleanwater. Only by defeating Cleanwater could he obtain the God Emperor fruit, and the purple-robed young man wanted to beat him up. Cleanwater smiled and did not look afraid at all. He took out a sword and gave off a white light as he rushed at the purple-robed young man. Seeing the two experts start to fight, everyone grinned. Their opportunity had come, and just as everyone was about to go up and snatch the God Emperor fruit, boom, a yellow ray of light giving off a massive aura landed here, resulting in a massive explosion and causing a powerful wind to blow out. The person who had arrived was a muscular man with short, red hair. He gave off a terrifying power that could make people feel terrified. Seeing him appear, everyone could not help but cry out, "He's Yang Pe. His big brother is a genius that defeated a God Emperor's image." Hearing that it was someone related to defeating a God Emperor's image, everyone instinctively retreated in fear and did not dare to advance. They looked quite nervous. Those who could defeat a God Emperor's image were undoubtedly the 24 most powerful people in the godly world. They could only look up to them and did not dare to offend them, or else they would suffer terrible consequences. Chapter 2079. The appearance of the well-built man caused Quan Shui and the violet-clothed young man to stop fighting. The violet-clothed young man frowned. Now that such a powerful competitor had appeared, his chances of obtaining the God Emperor fruit had greatly decreased. He no longer had the confidence that he had before. Quan Shui's expression became serious, and his smile disappeared. He did not have the confidence to defeat the well-built man. The well-built man looked at the two of them and loudly laughed as he said, "You can continue fighting. I want this God Emperor fruit." After saying this, the well-built man rushed towards the God Emperor tree. The violet-clothed young man furiously called out, "Keep dreaming." As he spoke, the violet-clothed young man gave off a powerful aura as he rushed towards the God Emperor tree. He could not let anyone else take what he wanted. Quan Shui coldly harumphed and turned into a ray of light as he shot towards the God Emperor tree. If it was his big brother, Quan Shui could only retreat because he was not a match for such a terrifying person. However, since it was just the well-built man, Quan Shui did not fear him. There were 300 or so godly spirits gathered in the surroundings, and they had all been attracted by the God Emperor fruit. They also wanted to obtain the God Emperor fruit, but they could only wait for an opportunity. If they rushed over now, they would not be able to obtain it. The three of them rushed towards the God Emperor tree. Because the well-built man was closer, he was a bit faster. He quickly came to the God Emperor fruit side and gave a wild smile. Seeing that the well-built man was really going to snatch the God Emperor fruit, everyone could not help but explode out with powerful auras as they rushed towards the God Emperor fruit. If they did not act now, they would not be able to snatch the God Emperor fruit. The well-built man wildly laughed, and just as he stretched out his hand to grab the God Emperor fruit, a figure appeared beside the God Emperor fruit and stretched out his hand to pluck the God Emperor fruit. Bastard! The well-built man felt a wave of rage rush into his head, and he furiously cursed as he exploded out with powerful power. He punched out with shocking power towards that figure, seeming to cause the air to explode. Seeing that the God Emperor fruit had been taken by that person, the violet-clothed young man also looked furious. He sent a large amount of power into his saber and vigorously slashed out, causing a massive saber light to give off terrifying saber chi as it slashed towards that figure. Quan Shui's heart tightened, and he quickly acted. He waved his hand, and a white ray of light containing immense power shot towards that figure. However, that figure did not seem afraid at all, and instead gave a condescending smile. Bang! The muscular man who punched out was sent flying by the man's kick. His body flew backward like a rubber ball before he stopped and spat out a large mouthful of blood. The saber light and the white light attacked, and the figure of that person disappeared. The violet-clothed young man sensed immense danger and quickly retreated. However, a person appeared in front of him and punched out with terrifying power, striking the violet-clothed young man's chest. Crack! Many of Ziyi's ribs were broken, and her body was sent flying by the punch. She coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Clean Water was startled and felt a wave of fear as he quickly retreated. The figure once again disappeared, and in the next second, it appeared behind Clean Water. Clean Water quickly turned around and cast a defense, and his body gave off countless rays of white light, forming a white defensive barrier. Even though there was a defensive barrier, Clean Water did not feel safe at all. The person's lips curled into a condescending smile as he clenched his fist and punched towards Clean Water with shocking power. Boom! The punch directly shattered the defensive barrier and landed on Clean Water's body, causing him to fly back. He coughed up a large mouthful of blood, and his face became pale. Everything had happened in an instant, and that person had suddenly appeared and taken the God Emperor fruit. Moreover, he had also defeated 3 experts, causing the godly spirits to quickly stop and look at that person in terror. That person stood in the air, wearing a black cloak. That black cloak fluttered in the wind, and an extremely dangerous aura emanated from him. The atmosphere in the surroundings became incredibly heavy. Who was this person? How could someone have such terrifying power? Moreover, he had never seen anyone like this before. Zhao Fu looked at the 300 godly spirits around him and gave a trace of a smile as he said domineeringly, "Hand over your divine power, and I can let you all leave." He had not come here for the God Emperor fruit, as eating it would only give him God Emperor's power. To Zhao Fu, God Emperor's power was not very attractive, and after all, Zhao Fu had a divine bloodline. Zhao Fu's goal was to obtain the godly spirit's divine power. He had absorbed too much of the ancient wind god's power, so he needed to devour other godly spirits' power to neutralize it. This was to make his 10,000 godly power stronger, and he also wanted to find the Time God. It was a pity that after looking around, Zhao Fu could not find Time God. Now that he had entered the secret realm, even if his identity was exposed, no one would be able to do anything to Zhao Fu. As such, Zhao Fu did not have any fear, or else he would not have done such a brazen thing. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the godly spirits looked quite confused. They could not understand why Zhao Fu wanted their divine power. However, sensing how terrifying Zhao Fu was, some people immediately agreed to hand over a portion of their divine power in exchange for safety. It was worth it. However, some people felt that with so many people on their side, there was no need to fear Zhao Fu, and they wanted to take the God Emperor fruit from Zhao Fu's hands. A savage-looking young man yelled, "There's no need to be afraid of him. With so many of us attacking together, the God Emperor fruit will belong to whoever can snatch it." Hearing this, the godly spirits could not help but feel greedy, and they gave off massive auras as they rushed at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu gave a cold smile and grabbed out with a hand. A berserk, god-killing power turned into countless bolts of lightning that blasted towards the young man who had just spoken. The blood-red lightning blasted over, blasting the young man into countless pieces. He did not even have a chance to escape from the secret realm, and blood and flesh splattered everywhere, splattering on the people around him. Crackle! Countless blood-red lightning bolts appeared around Zhao Fu and continuously collided, giving off massive sounds. A terrifying, god-killing aura spread out, causing the godly spirits who wanted to charge over to feel as if they had fallen into icy water, and their bodies started to tremble. Zhao Fu gave a cold smile as he said, "I'll say it again. Hand over your divine power, and I can spare your lives." The godly spirits all looked terrified, thinking about how they were only handing over a portion of their divine power. This was nothing compared to their lives. At that moment, Clean Water wanted to take her little sister and leave. It was quite unfortunate for Jing Tian to meet such a terrifying person. The well-built man and violet-clothed young man understood Zhao Fu's terrifying power and cold-bloodedness. They did not doubt that they would be killed by Zhao Fu if they stayed, so they wanted to leave as well. Zhao Fu called out to the three of them, "If you want to die, then keep going." Chapter 2080. Zhao Fu's words caused the three of them to freeze. If they moved, Zhao Fu would definitely kill them. Clean Water gave a dry laugh as he said, "Sir, I'm also willing to hand over my divine power. Please let me and my little sister go." Zhao Fu lightly nodded and looked at the remaining two people. The violet-clothed young man's expression was quite unsightly. Even though he did not want to submit, this person was simply too terrifying. Under Zhao Fu's oppressive gaze, the violet-clothed young man could only obediently say, "I'm also willing to hand over my divine power." Seeing that the two of them had given in, the well-built young man did not care about his face and also expressed that he was willing to hand over his divine power. He thought to himself that with how powerful Zhao Fu was, he definitely would not be a match for him, and that he needed his big brother to defeat Zhao Fu. Seeing that these three people were so powerful and had extraordinary statuses, the others naturally became even more well-behaved and did not dare to resist at all. As such, a strange scene appeared. Hundreds of people with divine power obediently stood in the sky and stretched out their hands. Countless traces of divine power gathered in their hands, forming divine power orbs that gave off different lights. The people on the viewing platforms felt quite confused. They could not understand why Zhao Fu did not want anything else other than the godly spirit's divine power. They still did not know what Zhao Fu wanted the divine power for. After all, if Zhao Fu did not appear in front of them, he would not be able to see what Zhao Fu was doing. Zhao Fu stood in the sky and gave a trace of a smile. After absorbing so much divine power, he would most likely be able to neutralize the 10,000 godly powers attributes and raise it by a stage. Now that this secret realm was filled with godly spirits, there was no need for Zhao Fu to go out of his way to find them. Moreover, he only needed to threaten them a few times, and he would be able to obtain a large amount of divine power. This was a great opportunity for Zhao Fu. Following this, the godly spirits condensed divine power orbs and lightly tossed them out, causing them to give off different lights to fly in front of Zhao Fu. With a wave of his hand, Zhao Fu collected them all into his storage ring. Then, with a trace of a smile, he quickly flew to the side and disappeared. When everyone saw that Zhao Fu had disappeared, they all heaved a sigh of relief. How could such a terrifying person suddenly appear? It seemed that there were quite a number of hidden experts this time, and there was no lack of peerless geniuses among them. Zhao Fu returned to the previous place, where Jiu Yun was waiting. He took out the divine emperor fruit and threw it to her. He said with a chuckle, "This is for you. It's your reward for submitting to me." Jiu Yun still did not know what had happened. At that time, Zhao Fu only said that there was an abnormality ahead and asked her to wait here. Then, he flew into the sky and disappeared. Now, it seemed that Zhao Fu had snatched the thing that had caused the commotion. However, when Jiu Yun obtained the information about the divine emperor fruit, she was pleasantly surprised. She had not expected Zhao Fu to give such a precious thing to her. Jiu Yun smiled as she leapt into Zhao Fu's embrace and hugged Zhao Fu with both hands as she said happily, "Sir, I like you more and more. Why didn't you capture me earlier? That way, I could have become Sir's woman earlier." Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "This thing is useless to me. Also, eat the divine emperor fruit and increase your strength. I also want to absorb the godly power of many godly spirits and 10,000 godly power." Jiu Yin smiled and nodded. Following this, Zhao Fu sat cross-legged by the side and took out 300 or so divine force orbs. A formless energy caused the 300 divine force orbs to float in the air and fuse into Zhao Fu's body, causing Zhao Fu's body to give off boundless divine light. Beside him, Jiu Yun also ate the divine emperor fruit, and a massive wave of divine emperor power exploded out as Jiu Yun quickly refined it. After half a day, Zhao Fu had absorbed 300 divine power orbs, and his myriad deities' power had become slightly stronger. Moreover, his attributes had also become more balanced, unlike before when he was leaning towards the wind attribute. At the side, Jiuyun had also refined the divine emperor fruit and possessed the power of a divine emperor. Her hair and eyes had a hint of silver, and her aura had become noble. She looked a little more beautiful, and her strength had become very powerful. Zhao Fu got up from the ground. Jiuyun looked at Zhao Fu and asked with a smile, "Lord, shall we continue to search for the land of the Lord of Gods and the many deities?" Zhao Fu replied, Right now, that was Zhao Fu's main goal. He wanted to earn points, find a time god, and obtain more godly spirit power. It was killing two birds with one stone. Somewhere in the sky, many godly spirits were fighting, giving off massive sounds and powerful ripples. It's not clear what they're fighting about. Boom! However, at that moment, a massive aura descended, and the surrounding air seemed to freeze. The many fighting godly spirits were given a big fright and hurriedly looked up at the sky. They saw a mysterious and terrifying person wearing a cloak standing in the sky, giving off a massive aura. There were over 100 godly spirits here, which was within the range that Zhao Fu could handle. If there were too many godly spirits, Zhao Fu would not have been so unrestrained. Zhao Fu looked at these people and did not care why they were fighting. He said in a dignified and domineering voice, "Hand over your divine power, and I'll spare your lives." Hearing these words, some people could accept it and felt that they would only lose some divine power, and they would still have the other things and points. However, some people were not convinced and furiously called out, "Who are you? Don't think that we'll be afraid of you, just because you're a bit stronger than me." Zhao Fu did not even look at him and casually waved his hand, and a terrifying bolt of lightning containing shocking power blasted towards those people, blasting them to pieces and causing blood to spurt everywhere. Everyone was given a big fright, and seeing how terrifying Zhao Fu was, they could only hand over their divine power. After obtaining their divine power, Zhao Fu turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the sky. Boom! Elsewhere, a group of roughly 30 or so godly spirits were about to fly towards the lake, but a massive aura suddenly descended as a figure giving off great power blocked in front of them. Hand over your divine power. Sensing the terrifying aura from Zhao Fu's body, the godly spirits did not know why Zhao Fu had stopped them. However, hearing these words, they looked quite confused. Everyone looked at each other and hurriedly nodded. Between their lives and divine power, their lives were definitely more important. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a group of godly spirits were in a forest, digging up God's spirit grasses on the ground. They suddenly felt a terrifying aura descend, causing their expressions to fall. Hand over your divine power. A dignified voice sounded out in the sky, sounding out in all directions, making it impossible to refuse. The godly spirits were not surprised and immediately chose to hand over their divine power. After obtaining the divine power, Zhao Fu did not say anything and turned into a ray of light and disappeared over the horizon, searching for another godly spirit gathering place. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.